580 KIDO as we sit here and think about where do we begin? How about those Iranians? You hear about that overnight? Apparently about 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the Iranians said, "You're not the boss of us," and decided to attack our troops. Thankfully, our troops repelled the attack, and we move on from that. But it's just very, very concerning. So we'll take your calls on that issue as well. And I have to tell you, the Koberger thing continues to resonate. We have those stories for you on our website, 580 KIDO. And a big bacon recall, if you will. That's right, a big bacon recall. So we've got, and actually it's distributed right here in Idaho. So that story on our website as well. But I start with something that I got to tell you that is just too irresistible.
I know, darling. Let's not be Dr. Obvious.
And what I'm trying to say to you is that, people want to know what makes people tick. What makes Kevin Miller tick? What really moves the needle? Well, he's always talking about the media, the local media, the national media. Can the media ever really do a good job? And I have to tell you, what is going on in Seattle, and as we continue to learn more and more about the shootings, is just fascinating to see. And I think because, like a lot of things, Kevin, like radio. Yes, Kevin, like radio. We have seen so many things that have been watered down. There's not a lot of juice. There's not a lot of sauce. And you think to yourself, what would it take to raise up and get the media going? Well, I'm glad you asked that. So I'm sitting here again, minding my own business. And again, we're not really a Seattle program anymore. Although, let's see, it's amazing. We have now the East Coast has found this program, which is strange. Looking at our recent podcasting things, we've got from Chino Hills to Merrimack, New Hampshire, to New York City, to Miami, Florida, to Seattle. It's very amazing. And again, I think our second city now is Salt Lake. But back to the Seattle thing and the role of journalism. And we're going to explain to you what good journalists do. And this isn't a knock on anybody here. It's just a different type of journalism. Oh, yes, yes, the fires are still burning. And I do want to give a shout to all those folks that are volunteer firefighters that have been called up and they are on their way. Could you imagine that, Bo? You'd have to leave the plush broadcast center to go fight these fires. So thank you to all of the firefighting folks, and certainly to all those people that are working outside. Thank you for saving us. But we live to serve. This is not egg souffle. This is eggs over easy, the fast food of talk radio. We go to the phones, and here is Idaho Mike with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Idaho Mike.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How goes the battle?
It's very, very early, sir. Very early.
Well, I try to get going early, but when this COVID thing went down, and we visited about it off and on, and you never did say if you got the shot or not, and that's perfectly fine. But I made it real clear I didn't want nothing to do with it, and the argument to the people that I'd run into said, you got to trust the science, and you got to trust the science, and but I didn't trust the scientist. Fauci. I mean, oh my God, man. Have you ever dealt with very many used car salesmen?
Well, I've dealt with a lot of people, but yes, I know where you're going, yes.
Yeah, and that's all I saw up on that stage. And now they're coming out with this incredible amount of information about just what kind of an individual that guy is. Not good.
Well, it's a big day for Fauci, and I don't know about you, Idaho Mike, but I'm one of these guys that, maybe hanging out with you, the fame and fortune, isn't really, one of my things. But here's a guy that reminds me of Judge Ito And KIDO was going crazy when, they started featuring him on the O.J. Simpson and everything else. And he just got full of himself. But Fauci apparently was hanging out with the Kardashians, having lunch with people when he was telling people to shut it down.
Yeah. No, that's the two things I got the least interest in is fame and fortune.
Right.
Absolutely.
But when you're telling people, you can't do these things, then all of a sudden you're doing that. If nothing else, it's hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, but boy, I tell you, the amount of influence and power that a lot of these people have, my God, man, you better have your ducks in a row. And he didn't even have his ducks, I don't know. It was a horrible thing. And lots of people, family fights over this deal, vaccine, no vaccine. And it was a bad deal. Then I also wanted to comment, I was hauling some cattle down along the river Monday, and you had a congressman or senator or something, I believe it was from Montana.
Senator Sheehy, yes. Yes.
Boy, is that not the perfect description of the monsters that are over there?
I would agree with you. I
was just glued to that listening to that. And, anybody thinks we're over there for nothing or completely wrong. That was an amazing speech that man gave. Wow.
Oh, well, it shows you. And here's the other thing. Apparently, now the Iranians are trying to get a missile that they can reach U.S. cities, and we haven't heard about this. Come on, man. No. So, and this he's a congressman or senator. What is he? He's Kevin? A senator from Montana.
Montana. Wow, man. If the vice president doesn't want to run for office next go around, I'm all in on that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a Navy SEAL. He's a successful businessman. He's got it going on.
Amen. Yeah. No, those are my kind of folks, Kevin, right there. Yeah. Man, that was refreshing to hear that, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I got chores to do, but I did want to get that in if I could this morning. So I super appreciate your show and you, Mr. Miller.
Well, I appreciate you. God bless, Idaho Mike.
You bet. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Phone number's here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. We'll be weaving in and out with Dr. Fauci this morning. And, by the way, Reverend Bill Roscoe will join us. He'll be introducing us to the new CEO of the Boise Rescue Mission. This is Reverend Bill's last week, and we will have him in the 8 o'clock hour. When people do things right, I always love to prop them up. And this is when I was just, kind of doing the wind-up with Idaho Mike. I was talking about what motivates me. And when you have good, hard-hitting journalism, and people say, well, journalism is dead. Not in Seattle. This is from, Fox 13, Hannah Kim. And she is holding the mayor of Seattle accountable for the lackluster response to that deadly shooting that happened. Let's take a listen.
We also have new developments in the 5-hour delay for answers after Sunday's mass shooting at the Seattle Center. Yesterday, we told you an SPD spokesperson said they were waiting on dignitaries before holding a press conference late Sunday night. Mayor Wilson denied that played any role in the delay, but now a source tells Fox 13 that SPD leadership was ready to go hours earlier until the mayor's office stepped in and stopped them. A source at the Seattle Police Department told Fox 13 officers wanted to hold a media briefing Sunday night to update the public, but Mayor Katie Wilson's office asked them to wait for dignitaries to arrive. Did anyone in your office tell SPD leadership that they could not hold that press conference between 7:45 and 8 p.m. Sunday night?
That is not my understanding, no.
Do you know if there's anyone else in your office that are making these calls without your knowledge?
That is not my understanding, no. So my understanding, which I shared yesterday, is that, first of all, we had a lot of communication going back and forth between my office and SPD and our state and federal elected officials as we were trying to work together on the response to this incident.
When you have a mass shooting.
Hold on. And like I said, at Seattle Center, we had a scene of active investigation where the police were actively looking for suspects. And so my understanding is that we were told that it was not helpful to have me or other elected officials coming down to the scene while that active search was going on. And so we went back and forth and eventually landed on an appropriate time to address the press and to share information.
The shooting happened about 6 p.m. Sunday. It took nearly 5 hours until police and the mayor updated the public. Governor Ferguson and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal both participated and offered thoughts and prayers. Our source tells us SPD was willing to do multiple briefings that night and wanted to get the first stream of information out hours before Sunday's press conference that started close to 11 Sunday night.
I think what makes it difficult to believe is because they have had significant training that we have heard about. They've paid tens of thousands of dollars to be trained by consultants. So they know exactly how to handle a situation like this. They have the information. They know when to put the information out. They know exactly how to do it. And they have certified, trained professional law enforcement who are well able to handle this without your attendance or anybody else. So how does this happen?
I just answered that question in my response to the other reporter. Thank you.
Well, that was reporter Dan Griffin who asked that last question you just heard. I also asked Wilson if the mayor's office has to sign off on SPD talking to media, especially during big events. She says there is no protocol like that. At the end of the presser, Wilson did say they will be reviewing the last few days to improve communication and called it, quote, a work in progress.
So what are Governor Ferguson and Pramila Jayapal saying about this? Certainly, it's a mass shooting. It's making national headlines. I can understand them wanting to be involved, but were they the reason that it was delayed?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question, right? And Ferguson and Jayapal were both at the presser yesterday along with Mayor Wilson. And interestingly, they didn't come up to the podium and address those concerns. They didn't speak at the press conference, but both of their offices denying that they had anything to do with the delay of that press conference Sunday night because, you know, the allegations were that they wanted to be in front of cameras and that's why they delayed it. Their offices are denying that.
So again, just shows you the brilliance of great local journalism. Now, again, I guess you can get away with that in Seattle, where you have a lot of, you know, people and stuff, and you cannot be, how should we put this? You cannot be marginalized. But this is just amazing what is going on here because people in Seattle are scared because now the woke mayor, the woke police chief, the woke have been uncovered. And you think to yourself, why in the world would you not release that information, would not hold a news conference? It's crazy when you think about this. And the police chief getting mad, getting angry, getting upset. People asking the police chief, hey, man, are you going to Chicago? We'll get to that in a minute. However, it's fascinating. What does this mean to us in Idaho? It means, thank goodness, that we have great and wonderful police officers. And I hope and I pray that our public officials, most of them are Republicans, would not be acting like these people in Seattle. You know, here you have the police chief. He's never around. He's in Chicago with his wife and stuff. And then he's talking about affordability. And now you have the young socialist mayor that doesn't know what the heck she's doing. Again, a wonderful, wonderful reason why to live in Idaho and why so many people are fed up with the nonsense. Speaking of the nonsense, our top international story, the Iranians attacked our troops. Thankfully, our troops, what did they do? They intercepted all the missiles. So we are not, we don't have any casualties. On the other hand, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the war continues, and that's not good. How embarrassing was it for the folks in Seattle? We'll tell you next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Dr. Fauci will be meeting the press, will be meeting the senators coming up very, very soon. We'll have that for you. In addition to that, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. The war continues. Now the Iranians are attacking us, which is not a good thing. Thankfully, we've smacked them back. We are doing review and commentary on the media, and this is another one in Seattle. I don't know if we should get Ari Hoffman on or Jason Rantz or Brandy Cruz. I know we don't know these people, but they're doing terrific work. Here's another one. What happens when you don't pay your bills in Seattle?
Thank you. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Bowles with Redeem Wellness Center, one of your partners.
So here you have a lady that is trying to do her very best, Dr. Jacqueline Bowles with Redeemed Wellness Center, and the city hasn't paid them. That's right. The city hasn't paid them.
One of your 19 agencies, Mayor, that you have working in the evidence-based violence intervention project. We are part of the hospital-based part. We are also part of the state's evidence-based group. Are you aware we have not been paid? We have not been paid by the city since April, but we have been working. We have been working. We have been receiving clients. We have been receiving referrals. We have been taking care of gunshot victims and their families. We have not stopped any work, but this office refuses to process invoices, refuses to pay us under a reimbursable grant. I have written your office, Joy Hollingsworth's office, your office. How many offices does it take? And this is why we have a problem. We're trying to work. Are you aware? We have not been paid. And I'm not the only agency.
Okay, I am not aware of that, but we will look into it. Thank you.
All right, this question is for the-
Wow. You can tell she really cares. Al in Ontario, good morning. You're on 580 KIDO. Have you been listening to Nicole and her AI chatbot breaking down every call from you at all?
Listen, I'm really impressed by Nicole. Okay, I've imprinted on her mind the fact that Rome was something that was very important, and also historical precedent. Okay, now of course, given Schopenhauer's maxim 34, she's going to be indignant, but I think there's hope for Nicole. Now she understands how important it is to understand historical precedent and understanding Rome. So that's good. That's good. Of course, she's going to be indignant. I mean, that's just human nature, right? Okay, when somebody tells you the difference between your buttocks and your elbow, it just automatically they're going to be indignant. But anyway, you could tell she cares. The gal you just had on. Oh, she really cares. That's what you have to have in the U.S. anymore. Oh, everybody really cares. Oh, in the military, you have to be compassionate and care. Everybody has to care. The whole thing is what you really ought to care for is your own capabilities. Okay, each individual needs to understand and understand where the faulty nature of our society really lies. But they don't. Okay, and what F.A. Hayek said, back in his book, Road to Serfdom, he said that economic control is not one separate part of life, right? Kevin, you like to compartmentalize things. No, the control of the means of all of our ends. That's what economic control is. And whoever controls economic means also decides which human goals, values, and beliefs are allowed to succeed. And so what we have now is we have the federal government basically printing money. They are in charge of our economic means. And so what does that mean? They're in charge of our values, our goals, our beliefs. And they're goals, values, and beliefs because they're paying off everybody. If you think that Washington is any different than Idaho, you're crazy, because they all dictate. Government from D.C., the deep state dictates exactly what will succeed, what ideas, what values, what goals will succeed, because they're the ones who are in charge of everything. Your ends, the means to all of your ends. That's really the way it goes. Okay, but the people won't get this because, unfortunately, they've been, kind of educated with the whole concept of, hey, just be a sheep, just go along with the crowd. Okay, and so really you have to look at the fact that our justice system is just so incapable of doing anything correctly, the same way as that they can't even stop fires. Okay, and it has nothing to do with the firemen, Kevin. So don't throw your red herring non sequiturs at me. But the reality is, look, you can't find enough people to work anymore. You can't look at out in the rural areas. The people know this. You can't get people to work. You can't find them to work. How are you going to get a bunch of firefighters? How are you going to get these people out there to work when we don't have them? Okay, if we do have them, they're highly overweight. They've been basically sucking down government subsidies, because what happens when the government prints money out of thin air, they pervert the entire economic system. So our entire economic system is perverted. Okay, you could go out there. Oh yeah, let's get food. Oh yeah, feed the people. Yeah, you fed them too much. I mean, look at our military, for goodness sakes. I was talking to my best friend, my black brother, right? And we were talking just the night before last, and he says, I don't even like to go on base. There's so many that are overweight. And what is Pete Hegseth trying to do? He said, well, look, man, maybe they need some more testosterone or something, because when you don't have enough testosterone, what happens? You get fat, right? And so, you get these leaders in the military, they're criticizing Pete Hegseth because they're the ones who, we got to take care of our people, you've taken care of them so much.
I think, just give them all the again, this is beautiful, everybody. Only Al could segue from the corruption and incompetence in Seattle to people being fatties in the military.
Yeah,
what brilliance! We are just blown away by your brilliance, Hal. However, back to, you do get people to work. You have people that right now are leaving their families, are doing their very best to help protect land that's not even their own.
Look, you're getting a few, Kevin. The whole thing is, you can get a few. Look at, all you have to do is look at the work. You can't get people to work anymore, Kevin. I'm telling you, man, I talk to farmers. I talk to ranchers. Okay, they can't get people. It's the fact that people don't work. And I go into Walmart and I see all these kind of, disheveled men who look highly overweight and are like in pajamas or something. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, what's going on? The fact is, what you need to have is a system in this country whereby you have incentives, right? What is economics? Okay, it's trade-offs, incentives, and scarcity. But the people don't get this. Look, you better have incentives, and you can have negative incentives also. But we don't understand these things anymore. Because what we've done is we've gone STEM. Oh, yeah, let's just do digital. So nobody understands anything about the human condition. This is the problem. Okay, so when we're talking about teaching the kids, you got to teach them about what works, what has always worked throughout history. Okay, how Western civilization works. Okay, third world civilization doesn't work. I mean, we're importing.
I get it, Al. He goes for a while and then he just goes a little too far. We appreciate Al, and I'm sure Nicole will give us her review and commentary on Al in Ontario. 580 KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Gabe.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, looking good coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. No problems on the freeway. Earlier accident up Highway 55 north of Horseshoe Bend. That's getting pretty much cleaned up at this point. Vinson Lumber is your Cedar factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Vinson Lumber, now in Cuna and online at vinsonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on
cash reparations for people impacted in New York City. Would you support that recommendation?
First, I want to say that I stand by what I submitted.
Yes.
It's the truth.
Yes.
It's not a personal assessment. And we often think about slavery and the complicity in slavery as being exclusively to certain geographic areas of the country.
Right.
Here in New York City, we were very complicit. And so I look forward to whatever those findings are. I can't give you an answer in advance of them, but I can tell you that this is critically important because this is also what it looks like to acknowledge what history truly was.
Yeah. By the way, I don't even think Mandami was Mandami born here? I mean, he's an immigrant story, right? And he's a story of the brilliance of America. You could be a socialist. You could be a Mandami the commie. You could be somebody that, has benefited from the great diversity twist in America. And now he's lecturing everybody about slavery. Maybe Mr. Mandami's families fought to free the slaves. I don't know. But it's amazing when good old Mandami, he's going to examine everything, and he's going to pay reparations. As they're finding out in Seattle, dear friends, there's not a lot of money. And when you siphon the money off from the good things, bad things are happening. By the way, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Team Mazda. We'll tell you about them and their specials this week as well. Looking forward to, again, getting the updates from Aaron and Joel. Other news of the day, we'll get your reaction to this. We've got the Iranians deciding they're going to attack us. Isn't that wonderful? Which shows you that despite, and people say this all the time, the enemy has a vote. And the president yesterday was talking about, we're going to do what we can. We're going to, make sure that we, this time they really want to make a deal. I don't think that they want a deal. Do you?
CENTCOM says U.S. and Saudi fighter aircraft struck multiple terrorist logistics and weapons sites across eastern Iraq in a strong response to over 30 IRGC-directed aerial drone attacks in the last 72 hours. The unwarranted attacks against U.S. forces were not successful. The U.S. also says on Tuesday the IRGC launched multiple ballistic missiles from Iran in an attempted surprise attack on U.S. forces in the Middle East. All of the missiles were intercepted. A U.S. official tells the Associated Press the two attacks were not connected. The strikes, though, come on the same day that President Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
And the very latest there at 580 KIDO. Let's go to Patriot Ray, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. I hope you are doing well. You look like you had a really good vacation. We're grateful for that.
Well, we're happy to be back and happy to have you with us. What can we do for you today?
Well, what I have is if I can have a little complaint for right now about our roadways, I would appreciate that. Highway 2026, 2026, whatever it is. The one that goes from Middleton Road to Star, those are the only two lights on that road. And just about every northbound road between the two have no way of getting onto 2026 because there are a dozen people trying to make a left-hand turn. I would like to know Kit Goldthorpe, I don't know if he has any responsibility over that area, but why can they not put a temporary light up like they do on the roadways in the mountains and stuff when you have congestion so heavy, to where you can actually get somebody that can make a left-hand turn from, say, Northside or from Franklin or one of the other roads that goes north and south, to where you can actually get through traffic, because right now there's been accidents, there's been problems with the roads, and there's nothing to stop that. There's only two lights. And then Star Road this morning was closed, so you can't get up through there. That makes it nice. So you take a side road to get to Star, and you can't get it. But that's just my little complaint. So Kent Goldthorpe, I hope you can have some input on that. Also, Kevin, Seattle. Seattle's an armpit of the United States. I mean, don't they have gun control? I mean, can't they control this stuff? Because they have gun control. And then you've got Mandani. What a criminal he is. I mean, you want to know what slavery is? Slavery is having these cities and these states that have control over you and tax the people to death and then drive them out of their homes because they can't afford the taxes, and they leave the state because they can't afford the taxes, and they don't understand why people are leaving the state. Now, that's communism, and that's slavery. You're holding the people to slavery. So, Kevin, I have one little thing that I'd like to add. It's my little ditty for KIDO, if you give me just a minute. And it's 580 KIDO, 580 KIDO. You should listen now, don't you know, to 580 KIDO. That's where you'll find the Kevin Miller Show on 580 KIDO. Our very own Marconi Award-winning man. He lets the truth be spread throughout the land. That's right, on 580 KIDO. That's the radio show. Thanks, Kevin. I hope you have a great day. Keep up the good work. I love listening to the rebroadcast. I love listening to the show in the morning when we get a chance. And it's just great to have you here in Idaho.
Oh.
You just stay fired up, my friend, and just have a great day. God bless you and your family.
God bless you, Patriot Ray. Okay, that has to be a promo, and that has to be a button bar. The courage to do that, and to keep in character and to carry that tune. That has to be like the number one promo. Whether anybody ever gets that doesn't listen to this show outside of it, if that doesn't draw attention, I don't know what will. And there are many things that I look at Chandler and I think, can you top this? But I don't think anybody's going to top that one, bro.
I don't know if I can top it, but hey, tops, bottoms, what are we going gay here, man? Kev, I would like to talk to you.
Wait a minute, are we going gay here? Where does that come from?
Well, you're talking about tops, tops, bottoms. Some people are versatile, some people are just, sloppy bottoms, and some people can't even stand up for the gay man. And that's what I'm calling about.
What? Hold on. You're standing up for the gay man. This is a first.
Yes, the Idaho Democratic Party has let down a gay man. There, Roth, who was there, he passed the primary. He won it. He was their duly chosen nominee to be running against Risch in the November ballot. Well, guess what? Due to pressure, due to insider backroom deals, who knows what kind of shenanigans. He has chosen to withdraw his candidacy, so now the only option, I guess, now is Todd Achilles. So how disappointing is it?
I guess he didn't. Wait a minute. I guess he didn't raise any money, right? That was the deal.
Well, isn't that the party's job? Isn't the Idaho Democratic Party's job to raise money, to turn out your voters, and deliver? Right? He stepped up. He stepped up to run. He won. He got all these endorsements, Moms Against, Actions. He's the first openly gay guy in Idaho to seek federal office. I mean, he's breaking some boundaries here. And what does the Idaho Democrat Party do? They pick the heteronormative, cisgendered white guy. That is not progress. That's regression. That is regression. So I am going to be writing in Roth for Senate when my ballot comes in a protest.
Now, wait a minute. Are you a gay white man?
No, I'm just, I'm a party man.
Are you a cisget? Well, I don't even know what the cis thing is. Are you selling out your own kind then? Are you?
No, I am. I'm in a monogamous relationship. I'm in a monogamous relationship with the Republican Party, as most of the people I know.
Right.
I'm not I'm not bipartisan. I'm not bi-curious. I am monogamous, and I would expect that the people that are elected to be officers in the Republican Party, like I am, and people that are elected officers in the Democratic Party, I'd expect them to also be in monogamous relationships with their party, their platform, and their people. And what we're here, they're going. What are they doing? They're failing the Democratic voter. This is a betrayal. This is, what's the point of being a Democrat if, do elections really matter? Are candidates elected or selected? Because here, even in Idaho.
Look, does it really matter? I mean, Jim Risch is going to wipe the floor up with anybody. I guess Senator Risch, I saw him the other day at Idaho Patriot Thunder. I've never seen this Mr. Achilles. I've seen his little billboards. In my opinion, the cheap shots on Senator Risch. I don't know this guy. How many people are going to vote for him? I mean, this is going to be a stomp.
I would say Dakota Lee Corson, not so fast. Achilles has got a campaign office at the old Boise Brewing.
Oh, does he? Ooh.
Not so fast. He's walking. I'm seeing signs in the Boise metro area. He's got a ground game. He's got, who knows? Look, he was the guy closely tied to Prop 1. Look at the millions and millions of dollars that they were able to funnel our way, to try and get that passed. Who knows the dark money force is really secretly behind him? Don't laugh him off. Don't laugh at him the way you laugh at the umpire. You never know, man. Look, if they can move the needle just a little bit, if this is the new strategy, pretend independents as Democrats to run and move the needle, they're going to keep doing it, right? So, you can laugh it off. I take my enemy very seriously, man, yeah. So.
I think you have to know what you have. And when you have Senator Risch, what would be the reason to go with this guy? He's got an office.
It's nice. Principles. Once again, look, I sat around and listened to the Democrats bitch and moan about dirty tricks Republicans, the caucus, how that was unfair, how it disenfranchised voters. I heard that again and again and again. And in Legislative District 16, there was a Democratic challenger to Ali Rabi. And what did the Democratic overlords do? They put their finger on the scales. They interfered. They picked the establishment person they wanted to win, not the voters. So either we believe in democracy, either parties have rules, either the members of the parties can vote for their people and their votes need to count. I mean, this is Chicago dirty machine politics
the
on
caucus
steroids.
really wasn't that successful because nobody really showed up here.
The people who were really committed to vote did show up. I mean, I had to run one of these locations.
I mean, I didn't see Vivek. I didn't see Nikki Haley. I didn't see Toss and Shake. I didn't see anybody.
They had candidate videos that were shown before the caucus. They had representatives for each political candidate show up.
At a video.
They had informative videos. That the candidates showed to prospective Republican caucus members. So that was how it's done.
Hold on.
The legislature.
I paid $100,000 to be in the Idaho caucuses, and I get to show a video because I can't come out here. I mean, look, maybe if you're happy running a lemonade stand and you call that a successful caucus, great. I'm more about things that matter.
But the Democrats told us primaries are important. Don't do the caucus. We got to do primaries. And what did they just do? They betrayed their primary voters. They pushed their guy out. They set this bar to raise money. That's their job.
They want to win. They don't want a loser.
You got to fight for your principles. That's how you win.
Chandler,
the guy ran like 5 times.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Boy, Chandler's fired up this morning. This in from Caldwell Mayor Eric Phillips. Highway District 4 and a developer are working with the Idaho Transportation Department to put a temporary light at Midland on Highway 2026 in response to Patriot Ray. Again, Highway District 4 and the developer are working with ITD to put a temporary light at Midland and Highway 2026. Thank you, Mayor Phillips. We enjoy that. Patriot Ray, naturally, the guy would have signs in the Boise area, but not in other areas, talking about anybody challenging Senator Risch. Look, the challenge is the primary. The primaries are over. The libs are going to be on the run. Senator Risch is going to be reelected. I don't see any of these libs, these loons, anywhere outside of Boise. I don't even see them in Meridian. The governor is going to roll. Apparently, the governor was hanging out with the president. So remain calm. All is well. Or, like they say, remain Well, except for those people that are fighting the fires. Do want to thank everyone for doing their very best to keep all of us safe, whether they're friends, families, or total strangers. Truly, the Idaho way. Our great friend Sean Hannity today at 1 on 580 KIDO.
First of all, I'm going to New York.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you there when I go to the UN in September.
You know, I moved to Florida.
Well, you know, you can take a plane.
I'll come up, yes.
You can come, you've come to Washington, so you can go there, but I'm definitely going there. I'm going to speak the truth in front of this. You know, there's just hate-spewing elected official who's pitting one group of New Yorkers against the others. He's turning them against New York Jews. I mean, what are we, in the 1930s? What is this, you know? So much hate, so many lies.
There we have it, our own Sean Hannity interviewing Bibi Netanyahu exclusively on the Sean Hannity program. Catch him today at 1, as you heard. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We would not be doing it justice not to share with you some of the remembrances from Lindsey Graham's memorial service. Here is our own Sean Hannity at 580-KIDO.
I see Prime Minister Netanyahu is here. Mr. Prime Minister, you too have been a dear friend of mine for 30 years. It's an honor to have you. And Lindsey would have been blown away that you took this long journey with your beautiful bride to be here today. He loved you. He loved the state of Israel. He loved the people of Israel. Under your leadership, Israel has been one of America's most consistent and loyal allies. He was never shy to say it, to the day he passed. And just as President Trump has been Israel's strongest friend in the history of the White House, you know, the two partners aligned together. Lindsey was that friend to Israel in the United States Senate.
We have it, our own Sean Hannity at the Lindsey Graham Memorial Service. 580-KIDO. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic on the freeway getting busier as you're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. Inbound on the connector looking good right now. No major problems to get in the way. Benson Lumber is your cedar factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Benson Lumber, now in Kuna and online at bensonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Thank you for joining us. We move on. Don't forget, today at 8, Reverend Bill Roscoe will join us from the Boise Rescue Mission. He'll be introducing the new CEO. We'll have them in for the hour, talking about the past, present, and future of the mission, and looking forward to that. We also have more updates. The roads apparently are reopened. However, the smoke, the haze, very, very, very dangerous when we're talking about 84 through Oregon, when we're talking about just about any other place. So please be very cautious. Those of you that are working outside today, as you heard from our friend Phil Hardy, Big Phil saying to wear the masks. He's right about that. So a lot going on today. Obviously, we want to make sure that we keep you up to date with the latest information as it happens. And, of course, what a great hour it was last hour at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Apparently, we're going to get some nuclear waste. You heard about this one? How about that? Idaho, among 5 states to accept nuclear waste in exchange for help developing nuclear energy. Boy, there's a trade-off. Okay, Tennessee, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Utah, and of course, Utah. And Idaho have agreed to accept nuclear waste from around the country in exchange for federal assistance in developing nuclear energy to create jobs. Boy, there's one thing to work on your property values. We're going to bring in some nuclear waste, everybody. Well, didn't we have 2 governors and former governors that fought against making Idaho a nuclear waste receptacle, if you will? We'll tell you about that. Get your thoughts, get your reaction. Not only do we give you the news, we want to hear your reaction to the news. Everybody wants to be heard, but no one wants to listen. We listen to you. Also, we'll tell you about a new ban on imports from China when it comes to robots and other issues. Stay here, Kevin Miller.
But officials across the country invoked your authority to justify these decisions. And you presented your recommendations not as judgments open to debate, but as dictates of science itself. Your own words demonstrate that you understood the influence you exercised. On March 14th, 2020, you wrote that the task force recommendations were driven by me, yourself, Deb, and CDC. The next day, you wrote that you had convinced Mayor Bill de Blasio to close the New York City schools, so you were involved. That same night, Governor Gavin Newsom's chief of staff told you that the governor had decided to close California schools, bars, and restaurants after watching you on television. Presidents, governors, mayors, school boards, corporations, and Congress all bear responsibility for the decisions they made. The COVID lockdown, however, could never have been inflicted without you aiding and abetting the crime. Children lost education. Small businesses built over a lifetime disappeared. Patients delayed cancer screenings and other medical care. Families were separated from dying relatives. Workers were ordered to accept a medical procedure or lose their jobs. Worship assembly, employment, education, and travel were restricted in the name of science. While you did not impose every restriction, you used your public authority to justify them. While you concluded publicly that COVID occurred naturally.
There we have it. Dr. Fauci going toe-to-toe with Senator Paul. We will weave in and out of this as we move along. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Fauci doesn't like to take the criticism, and he's about to get it today. There you have it from Senator Paul, one thing in public, another in private. Dr. Paul on Dr. Fauci lying to the American public. Let's take a listen to this. Do we have any of this here?
The next day you wrote that you had convinced Mayor Bill de Blasio to close the New York City schools, so you were involved. That same night, Governor Gavin Newsom's chief of staff told you that the governor had decided to close California schools, bars, and restaurants after watching you on television. Presidents, governors, mayors, school boards, corporations, and Congress all bear responsibility for the decisions they made. The COVID lockdown, however, could never have been inflicted without you aiding and abetting the crime. Children lost years of education.
Again, we'll hear, and I'm sure this is going to go back and forth because Dr. Fauci on his government computer had a diary, 1,100 pages of himself talking about what it was like to be Dr. Fauci. Now, the great thing about the people here in Idaho, and whether you're listening in Pasco, Seattle, Miami, Merrimack, Indianapolis, is that people here in Idaho, with the exception of a few, they're not looking for the shine. They're looking to get the job done. They don't brag about what they do or what they've done. They actually go out and do it, unlike Fauci.
To the Constitution.
So one of the main theories for those who have looked at this being created in the lab was the idea that could have come from a virus not previously published. Dr. Fauci, are you aware that Dr. Shi, who worked for the Wuhan Institute of Virology, was said to, and I think in her own words, to have over 100 viruses that had not been previously published that could have been a close enough relative to create COVID-19? Are you aware of that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Under your testimony.
Did you hear that? He's taking the fifth. He's taking the fifth.
Interpretation of what is or isn't gain-of-function research. But there's another important question. Did you fund gain-of-function research in other biolabs around the world?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
The one research project that we do know you did.
Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO. Fauci pleads the fifth.
Well, he knows that if he says anything that he's in before.
Blair? Okay, we'll try to get back to Blair in a minute. Senator Paul is asking Dr. Fauci live right now on 580 KIDO to be responsible for his actions. Dr. Fauci is claiming the fifth.
But doesn't go human to human very well. Ron Fauci, with the money that you provided to him, did an experiment where he caused purposeful mutations to create a new virus, an avian flu that didn't just infect birds well, but actually infected mammals well, went ferret to ferret in an aerosolized manner. People saw this and were aghast, at the decision-making process that you decided to fund this. But this is when, the debate came about, and you wrote in support of this in the Washington Post, and you said, even if a scientist is bitten, even if a pandemic should occur, the knowledge is worth the risks. Do you still stand by that? Would you like to qualify at all whether or not the knowledge of gain of function is worth the risks, particularly in this case, since we now know 15 million people died worldwide? Many people believe this came from the lab. Do you think that the risks really are worth the benefits for gain of function research?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Yeah. All right. We're going to finish with this question. And it's based really on that statement, that general statement in your support for gain of function, the idea that the benefits outweigh the risks. So there are many other people who disagree. They aren't politicians or not. I don't know what party they're in. David Relman is probably one of the most esteemed, and he is a scientist.
Back to him in a minute. Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Blair.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but hey, I'd like to present a hypothesis, and that is that, yes, does Rand have it out for Dr. Fauci? Yes. But I'd also like to present another hypothesis, and that is that one of the reasons that Senator Paul is going after Rand Fauci is to invalidate all of the Biden pardons. Because remember, one of the things that he did was proactively, pardon Dr. Fauci for anything he may have done, which is a complete abuse of the pardon system. But it was also done by auto pen. And so I'm thinking this is part of a larger effort.
I would tell you, can you believe Fauci is pleading the fifth?
Oh, if he answers anything, he's in. I mean, the evidence against him is already overwhelming, and I think that they're just building the public case, that they've already got the federal case against him, and that. Anything he says, anything Fauci says right now is incriminating. So he's doing this to save his own butt, but he's not going to be able to get out of it when they actually take him to court.
Blair, thank you for the call. Appreciate you.
Sure thing. See you, Kevin. Oh, and tell Patriot Ray that he has an amazing voice.
He does.
That was impressive.
It was great. Thank you very much.
Scientist at Stanford. He, I think, has classified clearance. He's been a consultant to our government probably for a decade or more. And he's written about this publicly. He says the opposite. He said that the risks of this research do not outweigh the benefits. He said the risks, we shouldn't do it. Richard E. Bright, who's been involved in this debate for 2 decades, says the same thing. Says we really shouldn't be doing this at all. There's a quote also by the Kevin Esfelt quote. Is that at the very end? Kevin Esfelt, who's a CRISPR scientist at MIT, also wrote about this gain of function. I implore every scientist, funder, and nation working in the field, please stop. No more trying to discover or make pandemic-capable viruses. No more experiments likely to disseminate blueprints for plagues. Dr. Fauci, would you like to at least answer this one question for us today and let us know whether or not you've changed your mind on whether or not the benefits of gain-of-function research outweigh the risks?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
The chairman has denied your assertion of privilege and directed you to answer.
No privilege for Fauci. Are they going to lock him up?
But you nonetheless refuse and stand on privilege despite the existence of the pardon. The committee will have to consider after this hearing what appropriate action should be taken against you for the failure to testify after being directed to do so. It's against the law to obstruct an investigation of Congress. There will be repercussions to your refusal to testify today. Senator Peters.
And we'll move on. We go to Double D, David DeHaas.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
And good morning.
Good morning. Dr. Paul's giving Mr. Fauci a big old colonic there, isn't he?
Well, based on our last conversation, I don't know really where this is going, but I'm on pins and needles.
As you should be. Well, Kevin, today is easy. You eat, you get acid reflux. Your gut aches, digestion feels off. You're gassy, bloated. You seem allergic to certain foods. Brain fog is real. At the root are small tears in the gut lining. One doctor calls it leaky gut. Another says food allergies. Another says autoimmune. They're all partly right, but healing doesn't come in a pill. That's just symptom management. To truly heal, you have to heal the gut. Job one, cleanse with colon hydrotherapy. Every 5 days, your intestinal lining renews with brand new cells. Flush out the toxic waste and old buildup. Give the body the right nutrition. Then stand back and watch the miracle. Living Waters Cleanse, we've been watching those miracles for 18 years. Tired of being sick? Let's cleanse. Learn how at livingwaterscleanse.com, 208-378-9911. This Sunday on 580 KIDO, my guest, Dr. Molda, shares how he reversed parasites, Lyme disease, and mold. Nothing here is meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. Seek out a qualified healthcare professional to see if cleansing is right for you.
David DeHaas, you were a good David DeHaas today. It's always good when you're a good David DeHaas.
It always takes a good mentor. It's the mentor. Mr. Miller, the mentor.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you, and may the good news be yours.
You have a blessed day, my friend.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
Well, that David DeHaas, he's something, isn't he? 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Getting your real-time reaction to Dr. Fauci pleading the fifth. This is not good if you're on Team Fauci. By the way, you take a look at Fauci, and you take a look at what he put everybody through, and he can't man up. Remember, this is the guy that ripped President Trump, that ripped all of us. By the way, at Team Mazda, July 33 days long. That's because all of July's special have been extended through Sunday, August 2nd. So if you've been thinking about a new Mazda, you've got a few extra days to take advantage of some incredible financing. Right now, you can get 0% financing for up to 72 months on a Mazda CX-70 and a CX-90 plug-in hybrids. They're the best of both worlds. Plug them into a regular household outlet for your daily driving. Then when it's time for the road trip, they automatically switch over to efficient gas power. It's easy to see why plug-in hybrids are one of the fastest growing vehicle choices today. And if the CX-50 is more your style, Team has 0% financing on Mazda CX-50 hybrids. In fact, Aaron and Joel say they can barely keep them in stock because it's the perfect size SUV for so many people. Speaking of winners, U.S. News recently ranked the Mazda CX-5 the number one compact SUV and the Mazda CX-30 the number one subcompact SUV in America. So if you've been waiting for the right time to buy a Mazda, don't wait any longer. 0% financing is available through Sunday at Team Mazda, the pre-owned superstore. Visit them on the Boulevard. Team Mazda, get pre-approved at GoTeamCredit.com. That's GoTeamCredit.com. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Dr. Fauci, what say you?
Conclusion. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
We will now begin a round of questioning. Dr. Fauci, your testimony today is complete.
And let's get to some of these questioning. When Dr. Paul, Senator Paul, has been on this case for quite some time when we're talking about Dr. Fauci. And instead of manning up, instead of being responsible, Fauci cops a plea.
Duly released private messages indicate that the doubts with the authors and others didn't disappear after the publication. So while this was being waived at the White House to show that it couldn't come from the lab, the authors were still privately continuing to assign a meaningful probability to a laboratory origin, one thing in public and another in private. Some of the same scientists discussed avoiding email and carefully managing communications that might eventually be obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. The pattern is straightforward. Privately, there was alarm, then an immediate inquiry to see if NIAID's possible exposure to funding, then a rapid public declaration of certainty, continued private doubt, and then years of resistance to disclosure. The question is why? The only logical answer is that your primary concern was avoiding culpability.
Avoiding culpability, which is what we're seeing right now.
Your conduct concerning federal records raises further questions. It is a crime to destroy federal records. Yet our investigation reveals your assistant diligently reported that she deleted tons of emails. In 2024, you testified that you did not delete federal records. Who's telling the truth, you or your assistant? The committee has obtained repeated instructions from you telling federal officials to delete
communications. This is corruption at the highest levels. Fauci lying, Fauci destroying records, Fauci not having enough guts to face the music. Fauci, you said, what about gain of function? Fauci, you going to answer these questions? Fauci, you going to do these things? And again, instead of answering questions honestly and showing some type of integrity, some type of moral clarity, we get Fauci saying this.
Member Peters, members of the committee, I served at the NIH for over 54 years, 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Over that period, I proved that I believe in and respect the value of legitimate congressional oversight. In fact, I testified before and or briefed Senate and House Senate and House committees well over 200 times over those 38 years. During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed sworn interviews answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However, given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution, his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at
on a government computer. On a government computer. Why don't you face your accuser, Dr. Fauci? Why don't you face your accuser? Denny joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Denny.
Good morning, Kevin, and KIDO 580. I got a little bit of disagreement somewhat this presentation this morning. Number one, Clay and Buck went over this with their programming yesterday, as some of us that listened to it. Clay already set up as past people on the Biden administration all pled the fifth, which constitutionally is their right. Secondly, I just get upset every time we have these big buildups by the administration, by Congress and the Senate. Oh, we're going to get this person. We're going to get them for lying. We're going to do blah, 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 blah. We don't see not one person sitting out there getting a puke walk, going out with handcuffs with either the U.S. Marshals, Secret Service, Sergeant of Arms, whoever that's supposed to be enforcing the laws they're violated in Congress for lying. How many people do we see that have done it? How many people that are Democrats have they got really done anything on the auto pen? It's all show and circus hoopla. We haven't seen anything going on officially. Oh, yeah, Comey is being charged from the FBI director. There's a lot of speculation going on, but we have not seen one action of a Democrat getting handcuffed and thrown in prison without kid gloves, soft hit like a marshmallow. And that's what we voted for. 77 million wanted the border safe, and we wanted to see some action against our president for being charged with doggone charges. But boy, the Democrats can sure move fast, but our Republicans that are in the House and the Senate are so slow like a snail, it's disgusting. And that's why the American Republicans are really, really discouraged right at the moment, myself included. What say you, Kevin?
Well, there's the Clay show, and then there's the Buck show, and then there's the Kevin Miller show, which is happening in real time. And this is part of the process. I share in your frustration, but the fact that Fauci, this is why, whether you like the Republicans or not, we need a Republican House and a Republican Senate to bring these people up here.
That they did data runs with a new algorithm.
I mean, here you have people grilling Fauci. If it were the libs in charge, it wouldn't be happening.
Yes, but we want to see some action at the end of this hearing. You know, they keep on saying they're going to do this and do that. We haven't seen anybody done a thing other than Comey got indicted, and he's out. He is out appearing on talk shows, lambasting this administration, lambasting the very crimes that he had his FBI do under his directorship. And, you know, like they used to say, the buck stops here. That's what the President of the United States used to say in prior administrations. I take full responsibility, going all the way back to the Truman administration, going back to Dwight D. Eisenhower. They took responsibility for the actions in their administration or preventing actions. And it's sad to say we have not got the backbone of people. Yeah, there's been some administration changes, but we still don't see enough people being deported. We still don't see enough people getting charged with real crimes that are Democrats that have been getting away with it for 40 years. 40 years. And, you know, I hope the administration gets the FBI and gets the DOJ to finally hit the hammer on the nail with these guys that have done criminal activity, including Fauci, including the Biden administration people that when they got up in front of Congress pled the Fifth. I understand constitutional rights. Yes, I will say the Fifth myself. But come on, we got to see some action, please. Kevin, this is what I'm saying, KIDO 580.
Denny, thank you for the call. God bless you and your family. By the way, our own Laura Ingraham is sitting right behind Fauci. More Fauci coverage next on Fauci 580 KIDO.
Of the legal issues and posture that impact your decisions at the witness table today.
Why don't we try that again? By the way, good morning. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Here we have the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs hearing on Fauci. Fauci, the tough guy, Fauci, who put on his government computer 1,100 pages of how he loved hanging out with people, how he told folks that COVID was, you know, you have to social distance, trust the science, and then he's going and having dinner with Jake Tapper and others. When the Republicans ask him a question, he cowardly pleads the Fifth. And then we have the liberal loons who are defending Fauci. How stupid is this? What type of credibility did you know, whether you were a Fauci person or not, does anybody think that he did a good job?
The Secretary of Health and Human Services, and frankly, his entire administration. Thousands of people in the United States of America have been sickened by a foodborne parasite, and the outbreak is nowhere near under control, as staffing at the FDA and other critical public health entities has been slashed by Russell Vought and Elon Musk. Last year, the National Institutes of Health awarded 201 fewer grants compared to the previous years. 207, I am corrected, compared to previous years. As those grants were either canceled or delays, especially at the beginning of the Trump administration, I can tell my colleagues what the impact was on people in New Hampshire, on scientists in New Hampshire, on clinical trials in New Hampshire, where people's cancer treatment was interrupted.
There we have it, Senator Hageman from New Hampshire. Her name is Maggie. Yeah, defending Fauci. And Fauci, again, is crazy. By the way, apparently Fauci's lawyer, this has become a kangaroo court in real time here at 580 KIDO with Kevin Miller. Apparently, Fauci's attorney has been thrown out.
Recognized. You are not recognized. Security. We'll hold off. But you will respect these proceedings. You were told not to sit at the table. You insist on sitting at the table. And we told you would not be recognized. You are not invited here for testimony, sir. You are being disruptive. Would you behave this way in a courtroom? No, because the judge would put you in jail. I can't do that today, but I can have you escorted from the premises. So I would say, sir, sit quietly and don't say another word. I said, sit quietly. You are not recognized. Another word and you're gone.
And by the way, he's about ready to be gone.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear what the attorney has to say.
Oh, here's a lib.
He is not recognized by the committee or the chair. If he speaks again, he will be removed from the room. This testimony is from Anthony Fauci. This is not a game with his lawyers. He can advise. His lawyers can give him advice. He's got a half dozen here. They're all allowed to talk to him.
Yes.
All right? Yes. But the attorneys are not recognized. In fact, the attorney was told not to sit at the table, and he's not obeying that recommendation. There's a row behind you, sir. That's where you were told to sit, and you're not. And now you're disrupting the proceedings. And so, look, this is the way Anthony Fauci wants to be remembered. For a lawyer not listening to the rules. That's the way you want to be remembered, and that's what you're going to do. You are not recognized, sir. Security, please remove him from the room.
Your reaction next. Kevin Miller, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic continues on a nice steady pace out of Canyon County into Ada County. No major accidents to get in the way. Don't forget about construction on McDermott, Chinden up to McMillan. You'll find the orange barrels out there. Vincent Lumber, it's your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Vincent Lumber, now in Cuna and online at vincentlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now.
We'll also meet the new CEO and her first media appearance. And take your calls again, more and more on Dr. Fauci, the ouchie Fauci. Fauci is fighting. Fauci says that they're all obsessed with him. On the other hand, he is taking the fifth. That's right. He's invoking the fifth. Tough guy Fauci.
Although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Let's go live to the hearing now. This is the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs hearing on 580 KIDO.
Most likely. February the 1st, same year, 2020. This is, again, still before our first death. There was not total agreement about the likelihood of deliberate insertion. Ron said he was he was sure that this could occur naturally, and we should not waste our time and divert our effort to pursue this. This is expected of him since he was the original gain-of-function person with Yoshi. Also, Christian was withdrawn. The rest felt deliberate insertion was possible, and given the fact that Dr. Jingling Shi at the University of Wuhan has been working for years in gain-of-function in coronaviruses to allow adaptation of the spike protein to bind to the human ACE2 receptor, we could not let this go. That's a remarkable statement for February the 1st of 2020, when there hadn't even been the first death here, but we knew something was moving. You knew well that something was moving. You identified February the 1st before any of us had ever heard of the Wuhan lab. Not only the Wuhan lab in the conversation, but literally the scientist that you named in your own notes, the lead scientist that was there. It's interesting to me on that. And the questions I was going to ask you was just your background and knowledge about the Wuhan lab and Dr. Shi and all the details. I'm aware of where you have been on trying to be able to plead your Fifth Amendment right, which is your right to be able to do. But I also want to be able to find out some facts to be able to help us for the future on this. The Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in May of 2020 put out a classified document that has only been recently unclassified on this, that had this statement: we assess all the necessary conditions for an accidental release of a laboratory-modified coronavirus, specifically a coronavirus adapted to recognize human cell receptors, were present at the Chinese Wuhan Institute of Virology in mid to late 2019. Now, the question that I had for you is, this is May the 27th of 2020. This is the report that most people will see, is this. I have clearance. I serve on the Intelligence Committee. I've actually read this complete document unredacted. My concern is, were you given the ability to see this document unredacted? Based on your position, were you able to see this and to be able to get this information? I could see it, and I know what's here. Everybody else just has their conclusion at the beginning of it, not this. My question to you was going to be, did you have access? Because it's important for the future that people in your position do have access to this kind of information and insight. Is there any way you could answer that question? Were you able to give access to this data?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You wrote on January the 26th of 2020, we should be allowed to send our CDC epidemiologists to China to work with them so they could see the data firsthand. You also wrote in February 12th, 2020, that you had great concerns about the World Health Organization because it depends greatly on China and, as you stated, often bows to them. Now, this is a really important issue that we've got to resolve for the future. It's not just our cooperation with Chinese scientists, it's our acknowledgement that China covered up their data, wouldn't allow our scientists to be able to come in. They cleaned up the wet market. They cleaned up the other areas. They wouldn't allow you to get access to all the other scientists who are there, including their health records, what happened to them, or even all the sequencing that they had done in advance. For the future of our research and our cooperation with any scientists around the world, I think it's really important that we resolve, if we're going to fund research and cooperate with you, we've got to have certain things from you. If things go sideways, we've got to have access to all information in all places. You were noting not only that China was affecting the World Health Organization and that China was bending them to their will, and so the World Health Organization was putting out data that you saw, at least at that point, as being from a Chinese perspective, covering up what was going on, but you also noted we weren't able to get access to all this information. We've got to be able to figure this out for the future to be able to make sure that research that is done, we have access to all information. If something goes sideways at some point, which clearly it did at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and that being, as was noted by many people, the only lab in the world that was doing research like this that had a lower standard of actually their security standards there than many other labs around the world, yet they were doing this very dangerous research. What can we gain, and what advice could you give us to say in a future setting, we've got to make sure that we actually get information from people and we can be guaranteed that we're going to get that insight? Yes, sir.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
I yield back.
Did you hear that? The guy just wanted answers. And Fauci refuses to give answers. What a gem, that Dr. Fauci. What a gem. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO.
What's happening, my brother Millie? Thank you so much for bringing this up. And, you had a caller that's a little upset, a little down, because we see so many of these criminals that are involved in our political system and our healthcare system and our legal system. You go on, and they don't get prosecuted. They don't get locked up, and it's demoralizing, and it's definitely had its effect on our country and continues to. I'll just make this short and sweet from this point out. Fauci destroyed people's lives, Kevin. We know it. Fauci, he killed countless millions of people by doing this experimentation and gain of function crap from the Wuhan lab, which we all knew what was going on. Guys like you and me, we sniffed it out early. I hope this doesn't get. I'm not going to curse, but I hope this doesn't get deleted. I hope that Fauci rots in hell. And that's exactly how I feel. He's a devil. He's destroyed so many lives, and not just the people who died, but the families who suffer missing those loved ones. And that's exactly what I hope happens to him. And I believe in God, and I pray to him multiple times a day, and I pray that he will never allow that scumbag anywhere near the golden gates, if you will, the pearly gates, rather. Fauci is a criminal, and he needs to pay the price. I'm going to let the lines stay open for other people. Thanks so much, Kevin. I love you, brother.
We love you, Jim and Star, joining us. All right, Dr. Harper returns at 580-KIDO. Good morning, Dr. Harper.
Hey, Kevin, it's great to join you for the White House press room.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Welcome home.
Yeah, it's a blessing to be here. It's been quite a challenge. I've been on medical leave, a lot of health issues, and please pray for me for good health and open doors to ask questions here.
Well, Dr. Harper, a lot going on. You've got the Iranian attacks. You've got Ouchie Fauci. Where would you like? What's the mood at the White House press room there?
Well, Iran is still the big issue. I just was looking at a billboard that's up in Tehran, calling for revenge against President Trump. But there's an underlying issue, Kevin. Your audience might want to know. There are evangelical Christian leaders who are talking about the underlying spiritual problem regarding Iran. There's a Jewish prophet, Daniel. I don't know if you've heard of Daniel before, but in chapter 10, it talks about a fallen angel, often referred to as a demon, called the Prince of Persia. And Daniel cries out for help, and God sends Michael the archangel to help. And so he delivers him, removes that evil entity, but the same Prince of Persia is back, that fallen angel causing problems. So that is the underlying problem evangelical Christians see, as to this Iran problem that a lot of people may not be aware of.
Well, I'm with you on that. Is the press secretary going to hold a briefing today?
And luckily today, probably tomorrow. These press briefing rooms are very crowded, and there's something new here at the press room. The names have been engraved at the base of all the seats for quite some time, but I noticed a couple of days ago they were all removed. So I'm going to try to sit on the second row tomorrow or some other day, and hope that they don't boot me out.
Well, that'll be interesting. That would be something, though. You have the James S. Brady press briefing room. I've been in there, and you've been there. Obviously, that's your office, so it's amazing. It was the old indoor swimming pool, that place.
Yeah, a little bit of a joke here. You know why Republicans make so good swimmers here at this press area?
Why?
Because I what you said, it used to be a swimming pool, but because, Republicans are the elephants, whatever, that naturally have their trunks with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've got
Republicans are better.
Yeah,
they're better covered,
Now, let me ask you, do they still have the bulletproof glass for the press speaker, but not for the press?
Correct.
Yeah.
And actually, there should be the bulletproof glass here for all of us press, just not for the press secretary.
Yeah, all the veterans always joke about that when you go in there. They go, "Hey, go pound on that window," and I go, "I'm not doing that. You're going to stuff and cuff me." But that's like the initiation there.
Oh, I know. There's another issue regarding Iran I wanted to mention, is that of Iran is the new Turkey. Turkey is the new Iran. So I've heard of, from several Christian leaders, one in Israel is talking about this issue. In Turkey, the President Erdogan has called for the destruction of Israel. He's very hateful of Jewish people. So it seems like Turkey is a new Iran.
Well, that would be tough because they're a little bit more efficient and proficient than the mullahs, I would say.
Yeah, and troubling that we've got an alliance with Turkey that hates Israel, and President Trump's Abraham Accords is very fragile. He's trying to get Saudi Arabia, and that would be a big win for him to this. But Saudi Arabia has never respected Israel's right to exist, and they're not very happy about the Palestinian Authority not having their property or whatever, but it's a real fight in the West Bank, which really is the ancient homeland of Israel, Samaria, the Judean Samaria, where the Ark of the Covenant was.
Well, Dr. Harper, you want to give out your website when you're not at the White House Brady press room?
Yeah, thank you. It's imcnews.org. You can just search for Intermountain Christian News. And please pray for me for open doors to be here. And I've got a new book about anti-Semitism, exposing it, and trying to interview President Trump and the Israel Prime Minister for it.
All right, Dr. Harper on the scene. We appreciate him. Let's get you the latest 580 KIDO traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic now really looking pretty good right now on the freeways. You're coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. Do have one accident reported right now on Federal Way at Access, so watch for that. Save money with Perfect Plumbing, Heating, and Air, and get your annual AC tune-up for just $49. For all of your air conditioning needs, call Perfect or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
Appreciate that, Dave Burnett. Coming up next, the Reverend Bill Roscoe will join us, perhaps in his final public appearance before he retires from the Boise Rescue Mission. He'll be there. He'll join us with the new CEO. We're looking forward to meeting her and talk about the past, the present, and the future of our great friends at the Boise Rescue Mission. That story is coming up next. Don't forget our friends at peakhealthidaho.com. Portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Peak Health Idaho. Dr. Lyle, we love Dr. Lyle. In fact, they're getting ready to give me the glucose monitor, and I've been talking about my journey towards health and wellness. Give them a call today, 683-7325. They do such a great job, and really appreciate their system built to understand, optimize, and refine your health over time. And you can take a look at Dr. Lyle here. He's got his VO2 max and his this, that, and the other. And, if you want to be around for a while, give our friend Dr. Lyle a call. You might see me there. 683-7325. Joining us now, the Reverend Bill Roscoe, joining us from the Boise Rescue Mission. Here we are. Is this your last major media appearance here?
This is it, Kevin. Yeah. I started with Kevin Miller. I'm ending with Kevin Miller.
In the end, they're all gone except me.
This is true.
They're all
gone. And you, by the way, have been the best friend that I and Boise Rescue Mission have ever had in media, and not just in media. We love you. We appreciate you, and thank you very much. I've been here 24 years. I think you and I must have about 15.
17, but
17,
counting,
yeah. And it's been a lot of fun, and I'm not leaving town, you know.
That's what I heard. I heard you're going out on a caboose.
Well, I'm leaving Ada County, going back to the land of the free and the home of the brave in 2C. We'll be moving to 2C end of this month or so, but I'll be in the Valley, and I'll be by to see you. I'll be doing cameo appearances at Miller's Mission.
Actually, you'll be hanging out with your best friend, Kieran Donahue. I'm probably number 3 or 4 on the power ranking. If I had to.
I do love the sheriff, and do intend to spend more time over there with the deputies. But anyway, all of that to say, thank you, Kevin, for being our friend and being our advocate, being our ambassador to the state of Idaho, really. And we appreciate all you've done.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship. And, you know, we were joking about getting all misty-eyed, and I think I'm going to beat you to that. But we do have a very important person, Reverend Bill. And as you know, when you come on, you really run the program. And I don't think that we've really recruited you to, our wayward home for broadcasters here, but perhaps in addition to fighting crime in your retirement, you'll come in and take over the program, which would be a welcome relief to a lot of folks. But, we're talking about the past, the present, the future of the rescue mission. I know that's very important to you and, of course, our great friends at the mission.
Well, thanks, Kevin, for that, too. And I do think that there should be, from time to time, the Bill and Kevin show or the Kevin and Bill show.
Bill.
That's up to you. But we do have a guest with us this morning, and I'm very happy to have her with me and to introduce her to you and to your audience. And so this is Jen Barth, who has been appointed the CEO of the Boise Rescue Mission effective this Saturday, the 1st of August. And Jen is a local gal in ministry here in the Valley for a long time. Good experience and background in business as well as ministry. And she is ready, willing, and able to take over the office of CEO of the Boise Rescue Mission. And I will become CEO Emeritus. And that's a lofty title. That means you're old and not worth much anymore. But at any rate, I will be helping out as best I can over the next 4 or 5 months. Any advice or information that I can share with Jennifer, I will. But this is Jen Barth, and let's have you say hello, Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen Barth, like Rev Bill said, and I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. It's an honor. This whole season has been a humble honor, one open door after the next, and following, often I'm asked in this season, what is it like stepping into Bill's shoes? And I've tried to come up with a great answer, but I don't plan to step in his shoes. I think they're shoes we should bronze. They're shoes of honor. But he has passed me the baton, and that's how I see it, is running the next season and running the next race. And I'm just honored. So thank you for being such a good friend of the mission. Your name is, I knew your name and what you did and how you've been supportive of the mission from nearly week one, being a part of the board and then being a part of this transition. So thank you, because it's huge.
Oh, no, we appreciate that. And we'll just let you two talk because, like I said, a little too emotional for me. I don't know why you're holding up so well, but you can go ahead there, Reverend Bill.
Well, Kevin, I've got a lot of experience.
I know. You're a man.
I've been around a long time, brother. And thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to say hello to your listeners and to introduce Jen. Jen has been a member of our board for about a year, and so that's how I met you, even though you've had ministry at City Light for several years. Yeah. I met you when you came on to be a board member, and I know you now better than I knew you then, but talk about your own experience in life and ministry, however you feel like sharing that, and let the people know who is Jen Barth and what makes her tick. You can talk about faith. Kevin's a big-time faith guy. Mm-hmm. We talk about Jesus on the air all the time, and that's a beautiful thing that we've always appreciated. So let the people know. Who are you anyway, lady?
Yeah, Jen is a rescuer, not by choice, but by calling. And I grew up in an environment where I needed rescue. abuse, abandonment led me to make some really poor choices on my own. And it was rescue that saved my life. It was God that saved my life. And it's the opportunity when God gives you a chance to love and serve and work in the community that you so desperately needed. It feels like the greatest honor of a lifetime. So ministry has always been my heart. I have served in the local church for over 25 years, on staff, off of staff, volunteering. But I would say 8 years ago, I led chapel in City Light for the first time, and that really changed the trajectory of my ministry life. I, again, always felt the calling of rescue, but to walk into a cafeteria, hold a chapel service, and see people receive hope that may never come into a local church or a church with four walls, as you would say, was just inspiring to me. And it gave me a passion to, hey, I needed hope when I was on the streets. I wasn't going to go into a local church or even a local rescue mission, to be really honest. I didn't have that kind of wisdom at the time. But to see those women at City Light, their eyes changed, and get the opportunity to just give them a hug, give them an opportunity to share the promise that God has a good future and a good hope for you, and be able to pray with them one-on-one. It just felt like, this is what I'm called to do. This is what I was born for. I knew I was a rescuer, and I thought it was inside the church, and I love the church. I am who I am because of being raised up by so many leaders and pastors over time. But I know that my greatest calling is to take people who maybe will never go through those doors without an invitation outside of those doors.
That reminds me of when I met Kevin Miller, speaking of coming to do a chapel service at City Light and how it changed your heart.
Yeah.
Kevin Miller came and stayed at the River of Life Rescue Mission soon after we bought that building.
Wow.
And that's where Miller's mission was born. And Kevin actually lived in the rescue mission for a week or 10 days. How long was it? A week?
It was a long time. And,
wow.
And by the way, as we continue on here at 580 KIDO, Jen, your talk about City Light and its mission there, and one of the things that you'll find out when you talk to people, and obviously the donors, the board, the staff, the volunteers have all contributed to this spirit of Christ that is so prevalent here in the Treasure Valley. Yeah. You'll come across a lot of media people, but I go back to, and you'll find yourself doing some unusual things, but it's always in a good way. So the early days of myself with the mission, one of the most, how should I put this, the most unique experiences that I've ever had is going to City Light at 5:30 in the morning. And now we do it in the living room, but before we did it in the basement for some reason, in the kitchen. And just seeing all those folks that were without shelter, without warmth, without God in their lives, coming out and all in their pajamas, watching us do the show. And I, obviously, we've lost so many people, and the mission has inspired so many. I always remember our friend Kendall, and seeing her and seeing how she blossomed, and so many others that the mission has touched this local group. But hearing your story about City Light, and then people such as yourself and others that instead of going home and watching the shows like myself and the president, you're volunteering your time and really keeping that community going. That's people do that by choice, inspired by God, but it's and again, you have that with the veterans, you have that with the kids, you have that with the women. So I don't know where that was going. I think I wanted to divert that from me and get back to the spirit of the mission. You'll find that sometime. I think you'll be a little bit more on message than my friend over here. But again, that, and for people that aren't familiar with the Boise Rescue Mission, that are just moving in, we're talking, no government, this, that, or the other. It's all through your generous donations and prayers. And that's really what it's about. And we talk about the mission. And let's have both of you talk about it. I mean, it hasn't always been easy for the mission.
No, we've had some lean days at Boise Rescue Mission. And in fact, when I met you, we were in some pretty lean times, Kevin. Nonetheless, we have faith. That's the underlying strength that we have, is faith in God. And when you realize that the Lord loves people, homeless people, wealthy people, bank presidents, panhandlers on the corner. God loves all those people. And when you understand that and you're called by God to serve people, then it makes your world go around, and it keeps you going forward no matter what it looks like in front of you. You know, you can look out there and it can be pretty dark. I remember times when I was on the phone with some of the board members and staff, and we were on the phone for a few days calling people we knew, asking them to make a donation so that we could make payroll. And that wasn't much fun.
Now, wait a minute. Repeat that again, please. Because some people kind of just let that roll a little bit, just to make payroll.
Just to make payroll. We were short of payroll. And so we were on the phone calling people, asking them to give. And they did. And we made payroll. And another time when things were looking pretty slim and donations were few and far between, we were getting ready to do the same thing, and we prayed. And of course, we pray all the time, but we prayed specifically, God, please raise up some people to support this rescue mission so we can help all the folks we've got sleeping in our beds tonight. And an older man in his 80s rode up on his bicycle and rang the buzzer, came into the building, and asked our gal at the desk if he could make a donation there. And she said, well, sure you can. And he handed over a check, extraordinary amount of money, and said, okay, have a nice day, and walked out the door and rode away on his bicycle. And he became a great, great friend of the rescue mission, and over the years gave a lot of support so that we can do the work we do. And we've had the whole COVID experience where we had, lockdowns, and we had people trying to come in at 10 o'clock at night with the COVID virus, and how do you handle that? We figured it out. We prayed, we trusted God, and he gave us extraordinary wisdom beyond what we were really capable of, so that we could serve people. And throughout that whole time of the pandemic, we never shut down, never closed. People came to work. People staff members slept over at the rescue mission in order to have enough staff in the house to take care of the numbers of people in the house. It was an extraordinary time and a real faith builder. At the same time as it was a huge struggle, it was a real faith builder, because again and again and again, we saw God do extraordinary things to help us through that. So, we've had media love us, media hate us. Remember when we bought the River of Life Rescue Mission from the city of Boise, there were articles and editorials in the paper and in the news shows that, they called me everything but a Christian, and they talked about my staff, and we were all bad people, and we hated women and children, and we wanted to hurt people, and it was terrible. And I want to say, thank God for our wonderful attorney, Frank Lee at Givens Pursley, because all through that time, Frank had become our attorney, and he told me in no uncertain terms that if I wanted him to remain as our attorney, then anything I was going to say publicly about this big outburst of anger toward the rescue mission, that I had to run it by him first. And I took him seriously, and so I did. And there were a lot of times when I sent Frank an op-ed that I wanted to submit. And he said, no, Bill. No, you're not submitting that. And I didn't. And thank God I didn't. Cooler heads prevailed, if you will. And after some time of prayer and reflection, I would come back to my senses and behave myself. Because, what does the scripture say? We don't battle against flesh and blood. We battle against principalities and powers in the heavenly places. And a lot of that terrible conversation directed towards me and our people at the mission was really directed from spiritual forces of evil. And so we went through that. That's what you're walking into. Jen.
I'm ready for it. Yeah. I'm ready for it. I was thinking, right when you said that scripture, the one that came to mind was God will fight for us. And I think there's such a huge responsibility with feeding and housing, and then you also get the backlash from, some people. I think our community is incredible. So I think it's the outliers, that are going to come against the work of rescue. But I also love that as much as it is a weight and it is a responsibility on us, we are not fighting this battle. We are not having to provide. God is fighting this battle for us. He is the one that promised to provide. So I love all the miracles. They do build our faith. I don't think either of us would want to step into something of this magnitude and this kind of responsibility if we didn't know God had us. If God doesn't hold us, if God doesn't provide. Jen Barth isn't the great provider. Jesus is the great provider. Jen Barth can't save. Rev can't save. But Jesus can save. And so that is a beautiful gift. That is what fuels my faith. That is what fuels my confidence in this new role. I was talking to Jean the other day, our COO, and we were talking about, I'm learning. I'm on a listening and learning tour, everyone. There's so much to learn. And it's a joy. Such excellent, skilled, loving, compassionate staff. But she was saying, capacity wise, she goes, we're never full. We always have space for people. And I'm like, how? She's all, we just always have had space for people. I was at the kitchen staff at River of Life yesterday, and we were talking about how many did you feed last night? And it was well over 100 for lunch or dinner, I forget. So Rev can correct me on the numbers. He's the numbers guy today.
Sure. And let's take a quick break here. 580 KIDO.
And Jen, you were talking about visiting with the kitchen staff at the River of Life Mission yesterday. Why don't you finish that story? That's a good one.
Yes, it was just so incredible to meet the staff. I was even telling Rev, the kitchen was so incredibly clean. The ladles were color-coded. Like, for me, that was a beautiful thing. But what I love the best is we were talking about how many people do you plan to feed for a night? And they gave me a number, and I said, well, what if you plan for that much food and then there's not enough, you have more people come in because it is open for anybody in the community to come get a hot meal. I believe, is it 3 times a day?
Yes.
Yeah, so anybody can come in. And he said, well, Chick-fil-A gives us pounds and pounds. I felt like it said tons and tons, but I'm sure it wasn't tons. And he said, we keep it in the freezer. So if we ever run out of what we're serving that day, we pull it out, cook it up, because we want to make sure that every single person that comes through our doors not only has a place to sleep, not only gets clothes, but they also get fed. And it just was, they're truly some of the most compassionate people I've ever met in my life. They're not there because it's a job. They're there because it's a calling. And I knew that, and I had heard that. But yesterday, going to all the facilities and talking to just, honestly, probably 50 different staff members, it's truly a calling. And I saw that in action, not just in what I had heard. And yeah, it's humbling. It's humbling and it's awe-inspiring. And they really are some of the most skilled and compassionate people I've ever worked with in my whole life.
They're an outstanding team, and I thank God every day for the people that He's called and raised up and equipped to serve at the rescue mission. And you'll see that again and again everywhere you go, as you said. No one's here for a paycheck. Everyone's here to serve God and to serve people.
Yeah,
and that's a beautiful thing. Nothing from Kevin Miller.
Okay. Can't really.
Okay.
Can't really hold it together over here. Right?
Back to the Bill and Jen show on KIDO 580 1075 FM. It's great to be on the air with you again, Kevin. Thank you very much for all you've done and do. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's all about the mission, bro.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, though.
Well, Jen, what you're really alluding to is the systems, the people who orchestrate the work at the mission, and the systems that we've implemented in order to do that work. And you'll find that in every part of the organization, that there are systems in place that have been created over a lot of years by a lot of people besides me, and they're tried and true. Out in the lobby, I was telling you about the time when we had the bed bug outbreak, and it plagued the whole Treasure Valley. Some of the nicest hotels in town were fighting the bed bug fight, and so was the rescue mission. And it took a long time. It took months, several months, for us to really figure out how do we get rid of these terrible creatures. But we did. And so now we have systems in place to make sure, as best we can, that bed bugs will not come into our buildings.
Yeah.
And we've been fighting the bed bugs and winning now for several years. But that's an example of trial and error. You know, people told us, try this, do that. We did, and this worked, this didn't work. But when we found the system, then we implemented that, established it in policy, and now we don't have bed bug outbreaks like that. And that's really important. And the same is true with food services. We do food drives all over the valley almost all the time. The big ones, of course, are at the Springtime Miller's Mission and the Thanksgiving Miller's Mission. And you'll be amazed at the amount of food that we get through those food drives. And we just had Albertsons do a sponsorship for us to provide food, particularly milk, dairy products for children.
Yeah, how many gallons of milk? Someone was telling me yesterday the gallons of milk that we go through between our facilities. Do you have that? Do you remember that number?
I heard it was 85 gallons of milk a day.
That's wild.
Yeah, but we have 60 children right now under our roof, and we've got a total of 520 men, women, and children in bed. So those people use a lot of milk.
Yeah, I saw
good for the kids and good for the old people.
Yeah, when I was doing the tour of City Light yesterday, not really a tour, but walking through and just meeting some of the staff. The children's program was in process, and there was I was like, okay, I know right away this is going to be my favorite part of the day. They were all lined up. They were headed. I guess it was pajama popcorn movie day because of the smoke. They had to shift gears, and so the incredible staff just shifted gears and said, "Let's do a inside movie night." But it was like all of them wanted to play rock, paper, scissors with me. So we went down the line and we played rock, paper, scissors. But such a beautiful gift of our children's program. I had no idea the extent of it. It's changing those children's lives.
Absolutely.
When we say faith, hope, and family, we really are putting our work where our slogan or our motto is, because it was seeing those children. It's not just their moms that are getting fed and getting cared for and getting, the counseling and the encouragement. It's these kids are getting loved on. They're getting joy. They're getting these real kid-deserved experiences to just be fun and carefree and learn about God and be cared for by all these. Just the staff, they just mother them in a way that these kids need, and their moms need that help. And to see the joy and just the lightheartedness of 27 or probably more than that, but there was just a line of them, it just made my whole day.
And let's not forget what's going on at Grocery Outlet right now too. They do that every time of year. Grocery Outlet, Factory Outlet, raising food and stuff too. See, he's has me adding more. So not only are you doing with Alberts and stuff, but Grocery Outlet, Factory Outlet, right there by Eddie's. They do such wonderful work, and they've partnered with the mission and continue the fundraising.
Great friends of the mission, Kevin, and there are so many. And I try to not name these businesses because certainly I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to leave those guys out.
No, I don't either. And don't forget Rob Studebaker in Treasure Valley Subaru.
Hold on, I'm with you, but they're Grocery Factory Outlet. You got them through me, so I got to look after my own people.
I got you.
Let's go to 580 KIDO traffic. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin. From the Idaho Pizza Company studio, traffic now, it's a hazy commute as you're coming out of Candy County into Ada County. No major slowdowns on the freeway. Looking good inbound on the connector. Do have a report of deer in the roadway up near Avamore, so watch for that. Fence and Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Fence and Lumber, now in Cuna and online at fenceandlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on.
Thank you again, Kevin, for having us on, and we appreciate you and your friendship and support. And we were just talking off air about the relationship that Jen and I have and will develop over these next 4 or 5 months while I'm acting as an advisor. And it's really important for the community to know that this is going to be as seamless a transition as we can have. Jen and I are committed together to make this a seamless transition. She's a very humble lady. She's paid me great respect and honor. I appreciate that, and I want to respect and honor her as well as the CEO of the Boise Rescue Mission. So we're really going to make the best effort that we can to get Jen out into this community such as we are today and introduce her, let her speak for herself and her ideas and some vision for the future, and at the same time maintaining the programs and services that the Rescue Mission has established over these 20-some years that I've been here. And the good news is, as I've said time and again, and I really mean it, you know, I get a lot of credit for what happens at the Rescue Mission, and I appreciate that, and some of it is deserved, but I have a great leadership team at the Rescue Mission who work hard every day in the kitchen. They're working in guest services. They're out.
Sure, and you developed that, and you allowed them to do that and created that environment. What was your toughest challenge?
Well, toughest challenges.
I mean, you know, when we talk about Curtis Road and having been in on some of the inside conversations, I mean, I always compare you to Evel Knievel and the Snake River, and there would be a need. And, you know, you remind me of someone else that I'm very close to. You don't really have this self-preservation vibe because you're doing this for the greater good. And, you know, that is something that we all aspire to be. But I sit there and I remember the senior facility. And I remember when we first started the Valley Home for Women and Children in Canyon County. And I can remember going in with you and, you know, your motorcycle buddy. And we went over there and Bill, and we're sitting there, the Bill and Kevin show, and we're going through this facility that needed a lot of upgrades, and through the generous blessings and donations and through a lot of sweat equity, Valley came online. The home for people that are just getting out of surgery came online. And then we had, again, the Snake, if you will, the Snake River, Curtis Road, that, hey, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and it could have been the Money Pit Part 2. And so I ask you, you know, what was your toughest? I can go back to, you know, going into city and seeing a lot of those women who, you know, would be in jail without you guys, without the mission. Yeah. So back to you there, buddy. I'll just take a break from the Jen and Bill show or the Bill and Jen show for a moment. And if you can let us in on the inside. And I can't look at you or Jen, so I'll just sit here and stare at my computer.
Kevin, we love you, man.
Oh.
Well, you've given a good history of the mission in my 24 years of service here. I've been challenged time and again with doing projects such as you've mentioned, and you know, Curtis Road was the biggest one of them all.
Where you can't find affordable homes, and here you go, you, Gene, Jason, the crew, Kenny, Cloverdale Kenny, and you just all of a sudden you guys believe. I mean, we have the before and after photos. It was just amazing.
Yeah, and that's the key, Kevin. Believe. We believed. It was a really, really hard decision. That was a huge challenge for my chairman and I. Was Kent Conrad was chairman then, and Kent and I were meeting on the phone or meeting over at the Stagecoach over lunch and talking about the pros and cons. And another board member, Bill Roscoe, was heavily involved in those conversations.
Bill and I were the ones that, we went over to Valley when we were just doing it.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, it was faith that brought us to the conclusion that we had to do this because, as you said, and everyone knows, affordable housing is just so hard to find. And we had people graduating from the New Life program and staying at the Rescue Mission because there was nowhere to go. They had worked hard, they saved money, they had a couple $1,000s in the bank, but there was nowhere that they could afford to go except perhaps into a couple of places that just weren't healthy for someone in recovery to move into. And probation and parole sometimes said, no, you're not moving into there. You know, we're just not going to let you do that. So we realized that it was really, really important, essential for the successful continued recovery of our people that we could help provide temporary transitional living for them. And so with all of that, we jumped over the Snake River. And you mentioned Kenny, and I'm glad you did because Kenny listens to this show. And Kenny from Cloverdale Plumbing called me up after I was on the air with you talking about this possibility. We hadn't even pulled the trigger yet on this project. And he said, hey, meet me over there at that building, Roscoe. I want to talk to you. And I met him over there. And we walked down the hallway, and he told me how his dad worked on this building, and he had worked on this building and been doing maintenance on this building for 20-some years and so on. And suddenly he stopped in the middle of the hallway, and he turned around, and he said, Roscoe, I'm your plumber. And he put out his hand, and I shook his hand, and he said, we will do this work for you cheaper than anybody in the valley. And if we can't do it for free, you're going to get the best deal you can get. And Kenny kept his word throughout that project. And we ended up having to replumb half of the building, 58,000 square feet. We had to replumb half of it through the attic.
Yeah, I
New
remember.
water supply lines. We had to replace the sewer line out to the street. It was an amazing plumbing project, and Kenny was there from start to finish and did what he said he would do. And that's how we got it done, because people came on board with us. People caught the vision. People had the same kind of faith we had. And early on in that project, we got a couple of huge donations right out of the sky, if you will. You know, one fellow I had known for several weeks. He'd made a gift to the mission. We got to be friendly, and he met me over there one morning, and he handed me a check for $1 million.
What'd that feel like?
Oh my gosh, I had to sit down, and I was speechless. If you can imagine, Reverend Bill had nothing to say. I said, thank you. And he was going out the door, see you, Bill. And off he went. And I called my chairman, Kent Conrad, and I said, you're not going to believe this, bro. I said, I think we need to do this project. I think we're going to do it. I think it's going to happen. And we did.
That was how many million?
He gave the project?
Yeah, the project.
About $9 million.
Yeah, $9 million.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And not only that, which is amazing that we raised the money to do that project. And as you alluded to, Kevin, there were times when, boy, we need some gifts right now. We got a lot of bills coming in. We got to pay them. And boom, they came in. Throughout that whole project, it was that way, so that before it was finished, we had all of the money in the bank to pay for that project. We just slurried the parking lot last week and put up the new sign, and that's the last of the capital campaign for Curtis Road. It's all finished, and we still have some operating money in the bank. This is what God can do when you believe, you have faith, and you work hard. As my great hero Hulk Hogan used to say your prayers, take your vitamins, and behave yourself, and everything will be okay.
Well, no, and I can remember, James running around and his little rascal, and just the commitment, and that's really what you get with the Boise Rescue Mission, boiserm.org. If you'd like to donate. Obviously, the summertime is a very challenging time here when we're talking about kids, and we're getting ready for back to school. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But was that the biggest thing ever, Curtis Road?
No, I think the biggest thing was buying the River of Life, buying the community house from the city of Boise. I don't think I've ever been so upset and disappointed and frustrated in my life.
But you overcame that, and that's really the story of the mission, if you will. And you've come a long way from hauling chickens with Doug Armstrong. I'll tell you that story next. Kevin Miller. Reverend Bill?
Well, Kevin, thanks for giving us the mic and giving us the airwaves for this hour. We sure appreciate it. Jen's enjoying her time here in your luxurious studio. We really appreciate the invitation. So, Jen, we were just briefly talking about where we came from and how we got here. Yes. So you're not a native Idahoan, but I have a sign in my office. You may have seen it. It says, I wasn't born in Idaho, but I got here as fast as I could.
Amen.
And I mean that very sincerely. So how long have you lived here, and where do you live, and what about a little bit about your own life?
All right. I was born in Seattle, raised for the most part early on north of that area, but I came here as a teenager, and I went back and forth with some school to different states, but I've been here since I was about 15 years old. When my parents travel, I always say, are you coming back to God's country?
Yeah, there you go.
It's a gift. It's a gift to live in this state. It's a gift, the people, the community. I think some of us who travel a lot every time it's like, oh, back in the Boise airport. There's something about our state that, it's beautiful, and the community is, like you've said over and over, they're kind, they're generous. It is unique, it is special, and it's an honor to get to do what we're doing in such a beautiful state that really does love and support the Boise Rescue Mission.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
I did go to college.
Where'd you go?
Well, I went to a few of them, but I went to Boise State. I also went to CWI. But early on, because of my upbringing, I had some work that needed to be done, so I started at Skagit Community College in Washington.
Well, I don't know if you know this. I haven't talked about it much since we've been together, but I went to What's the Matter You in Frostbite Falls, Minnesota with Bullwinkle the Moose, one of my favorite alumni.
That is quite the education, Rev. And look where it's got you.
Yeah.
Didn't you get a doctorate, though?
Well, I have an honorary doctorate.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't even know what to do with that. But
you're Dr. Reverend.
It's quite an honor, and I have
it's deserved.
huge. Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. Anyway, I joined the Army out of high school and went to Vietnam 8, 9 months, 10 months later. I was in Vietnam, did a year over there, and came back and had 6 months to go, and got into the Carpenters Union, became a carpenter. So the Carpenters Union in those days, you had to go through the apprenticeship, and in order to do that, you had to take classes, and that ended up giving me a AA in construction technology.
Wow.
So there's my higher education.
Wow.
Right there.
Well, that's why you've built so much.
Well, I did,
You've had
and
that experience.
I learned my lesson. Watching others around me, mentors that I had in rescue, particularly. So I have a lot of certificates in drug and alcohol addiction recovery, all those kinds of things, nonprofit management. But anyway, What's the Matter You is my claim to fame.
Yeah.
And what's next for you?
Well, Kevin, what's next for me is to, first of all, over the next months, help Jen however she wants me to and needs me to. Stay in touch with my wonderful staff at the mission as friends now instead of employer-employee. I'm going to relearn how to play golf. I never really learned in the first place, but I hope to learn how to play golf and get out there and play some golf. I'll be looking for Paul from MAF, our golf buddy. I'm going to be doing more, I hope, with the Canyon County Sheriff's Office, where I've served as a volunteer for 15, 16 years.
The chaplain
for the Sheriff's Office. And I've been, I haven't been active really in probably 7, 8 years. I've been so busy with being the CEO of the Rescue Mission. But I am going to move to Caldwell. My wife and I bought a house up there. We're doing a little painting and cleaning on it, and we're going to move in. And I hope to spend more time with Kieran and the deputies. I'm looking at a lot of other volunteer kind of things. I love veterans issues and veterans events. I'm a member of VFW, American Legion, Vietnam Veterans. So I'm looking at all those organizations. The cemetery needs volunteers. The home needs, Veterans Home needs volunteers. So I'll probably try to plug in and get some of that kind of thing to go on to.
What do you want to say to people right now?
Thank you. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, with all of my heart, as sincerely as I can. You folks in this community have embraced me and the rescue mission like I could never have imagined when I got here. I had no idea, really, how this was going to go. But this community, the folks of this community, from Butch Otter and Dirk Kempthorne, who welcomed me into their office and were kind to me and spoke highly of the mission. Brad Little, Raul Labrador, one of my favorite volunteers at the Rescue Mission, all the way through the community, to the homeless people that I've known over the years and those who've been in recovery and made recovery happen by the grace of God. And now they're good friends and employees at the Rescue Mission. My assistant.
Donors, too?
Oh, the donors. Kevin, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
People just give and give.
What a great run.
It's been amazing. And Jen is going to carry the torch now, and she's going to carry it high and carry it proud. And I encourage everybody listening, to continue your support for the rescue mission and encourage this lovely young woman to carry on the fight, carry on the work of rescue.
Yeah, I know it's not easy. Not easy to say those things, is it?
No, it's not easy.
Yeah, so I was bawling I had you on last week. Yeah, I was crying.
I was talking to James Engstrom in the hallway yesterday and got all choked up, teared up, and had some volunteers come by to say goodbye to me, and got a hug from a 90-year-old lady who's been volunteering for 18 years. And I'm going to miss a lot of this, in the front line kind of thing. But I'm not going away.
Yeah. You think of what Larry is thinking about right now. God bless old Larry. Larry was the best, man. Let me just see if you can't hear this, but I'm just going to play a clip from Larry here.
Kevin, I just want everybody to know how much I appreciate you. You and I are friends.
We are.
We've become good friends.
Let me just say this: we're all very blessed to have you in our lives. Well, you make such a difference, Larry.
Kevin, you too. You've been a good friend.
And really, that's the message of the Boise Rescue Mission. And Jen, here you go. You're, you've got your own plans, and obviously God has blessed you. So your thoughts in the last 2 minutes. See, now you're learning from the master here. Usually, see, he loves the mic, and the problem with both of us is when we're together, there's only one mic or one camera. And through our many adventures together. So now here's your training here. Can you give us your thoughts here in the last minute?
My thoughts are, I keep hearing the word dedicated over you, Rev, because when I look at your life and your legacy and your family, personally and professionally, you just are a very, very dedicated man. You're dedicated to service. You love God well. You love your community. You've done the hard thing because the heart of God is in you to see a need and try to fulfill it. And you've sacrificed, you've suffered, you've walked through a lot. And it's impressive and it's God honoring. And I just want to once again honor you for what you've done. It's carrying the baton is with trepidation, but it is a torch. I even like that better. Carrying the torch and carrying it high, because like we said, it's not about Jen's strength or Rev's strength. It's about the strength of God, the wisdom of God to carry us and to keep moving forward. There's no shortage in our valley of needs. There's no shortage of people needing housing and food and shelter, and we can do that, and that's what we're called to. And so I look forward to not burying the talent that you have invested, but investing what you have invested and carry on this legacy. And you're a builder, and I take on that mantle of building, that we would build up people, that we would build up our community, that we would run after the lost, and in Luke it says that Jesus came to seek and save those who are lost. And so
boy, just when you think it's safe to breathe the air, Dr. Fauci continues to testify. We'll have more for you on that. Also, this portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru. A lot of great deals. We'll tell you about Rob and what the crew they're doing and what they're up to this week, and some great specials coming up at Treasure Valley Subaru. We'll talk a little bit about them to appreciate their sponsorship of this portion of the program. Of course, 580 KIDO, your home for Fox News on the radio. Joining us now before we get to Eric and Cuna is the one, the only Jeff Manasso, and Ouchie Fauci is the headline. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning to you. So this hearing on Capitol Hill was expected to be one of the most consequential congressional appearances of Dr. Anthony Fauci, particularly after the release of subpoenaed documents from him, his private journal that was only discovered through the Department of Health's national servers. Apparently there was some information on the servers regarding his diary, if you will, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s team found it, and they turned it over to Rand Paul, the Homeland Committee chair, who, as you know, has investigated Anthony Fauci for years, was expected to grill him, he says, over the truth of the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic, in which Fauci has previously said over and over again, it did not come from the Wuhan lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, but that it came from a wet market where they sell, meats and vegetables and bats and whatever they sell there, and it didn't come from a bat, or at least not in the wet market anyway. And now, according to his private journals, Fauci admits that the virus did not come from that wet market. And so, during opening statements, Rand Paul said the decision to fund the dangerous research in Wuhan, China, will go down in history as the worst public health decisions ever, and that the American people deserve an apology. Anthony Fauci pleading the fifth today. He's not talking, but it continues on the hearing on Capitol Hill, and it's partisan as well.
Well, just it's going to be, call it the sound or the clip stuff with Dr. Fauci, as you said, pleading the fifth again and again and again.
Yeah, and I think when you peel it back and you take politics out of it, so if you take your side out of it as a member of the American public, you want answers. You want to get to the bottom of the reason why this happened. Rand Paul calls this a man-made pandemic that was funded by NIH through Dr. Fauci. Fauci has denied that. Rand Paul says he's got receipts, and so where did it come from? And you have to remember that people have a short memory, and how this country really, the world was crippled. It was the lockdowns of the schools, the decision made by Anthony Fauci. It started in New York, then it went to California, and then small businesses, big businesses locked down. Some of the businesses, many businesses, thousands went away forever. Being berated at Walmart for having a nostril showing through your mask, the 6 feet distancing, the isolation, the mental health crisis. I remember vividly people being arrested for daring to leave their apartments here in Chicago and walk on the sidewalk during the pandemic, during the height of it, or being arrested for walking on the beach. That isolation, the long goodbyes to dying family members through Zoom or through the glass, from the other side of the glass of the nursing home or the hospital, the political polarization, the public trust erosion, the instability. It was a wild time, and so to expect that we deserve answers as Americans is one thing. It's another thing that's taking place during this hearing. It's what we see every day, my friend. It's the battle over politics and ideology and trying to score points. But nonetheless, Rand Paul, we have his journal, and some things are pretty interesting in that. And it would be nice to have answers. But as you know, he's been pardoned by President Biden. He got a preemptive pardon in the hours before Biden left office. He gave him a preemptive pardon between April of 2014 and January of 2020, and for any federal crimes that he may have committed. And so he's free on that. The biggest risk that he might have faced today, the legal challenges, would be to perjure himself. Because that would open up not only DOJ investigations, potential charges, or or even a special counsel, could have looked into him and his works, and so he's pleading the fifth. He's doing probably what his lawyers have told him to do, but probably what you would do or I would do if we were at Dr. Anthony Fauci on the Hill today.
Jeff Manasso, we'll be hearing about the doctor for quite some time. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Appreciate that. By the way, anytime we can play Josh Hawley, we play Josh Hawley.
What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color is the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What day of the week is it today?
By the way, with a guy who has the ego of Fauci, it must be killing him not to be able to go smack back at these folks. Eric in Cuna on 580 KIDO. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, it does seem like a dog and pony show. I mean, there should, in a real world, you know, he should have been arrested by now. He should be under criminal investigation. It's pretty ridiculous. But, you know, Josh Hawley asking him that question, what color's the carpet? Actually, he should have to answer that because it's not about him, because pleading the fifth means not testifying against yourself or whatever. So I think if Rand Paul and whoever brought this all together, if they would have been smart, they probably would have guessed he was going to plead the fifth, you know. But what they could have done was brought his closest advisors and his assistants and those people that were around him helping him make the decisions. They should have brought them in and asked them questions about him. And they couldn't plead the fifth that way because when you're pleading the fifth, of course, you know, this is what I read, but when you're pleading the fifth, it's all about not testifying against yourself. So they should have brought in other witnesses and asked them questions with Dr. Fauci right there. And they should have, like you do, Kevin, and they should have played some sound bites of him talking.
Well,
you know,
I think they're gonna, but you take a look at this guy, this despicable Fauci. What can you say?
I know. It's ridiculous. He should have been arrested by now. And, you know, as far as the pardon goes, you know, did Joe, you know, I'm not really sure, but did Joe Biden invent the preemptive pardon? Because I always thought if you're pardoned, you were already convicted of a crime. So Joe Biden, I guess, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look at the history of pardons. But, you know, to pardon somebody for something they weren't convicted of is an admission of guilt to me. And I think those pardons should be erased because if you're not pardoning somebody for something they were convicted of, then what are you pardoning? So all those preemptive pardons, I think, you know, it wasn't invented by Joe Biden. We know that. Some, you know, lunatic liberal had the bright idea to tell him, hey, let's do preemptive pardons. So it's almost like he invented them or something. So they, you know, that should be completely erased. These pardons, you know, I mean, they're all these preemptive pardons are really just admissions of guilt. So I don't know. I hope something comes of this. I hope it's probably like what Denny was saying, the other caller, Denny, that, you know, it's just a dog and pony show and nothing's really going to happen. And Dr. Fauci's going to go off to his mansion wherever he lives and, you know, live his rich, luxurious life and sit there with that smirk on his face and not get arrested. He should have been arrested by now. I mean, there should be a criminal investigation. But, you know, he's part of the elite. He's part of all these. It's kind of like all the politicians that are stealing from USAID and nothing's happened yet. Nothing's happening. We're busy in a war right now, so, you know, we can't focus on that. We need to focus on getting these corrupt politicians, these diarrhea of a madman doctors like Dr. Fauci. These people need to go. And they better step on the gas because 2 more years, you know, we got a little over 2 years left of this administration. And I'd like to see some real movement, some real justice. But it seems like they're just having these dog and pony show hearings, and we just say, oh, they're going to do this. They're going to do like RFK. He's going to stop the fake meat from being produced by Bill Gates. We're not seeing that. We just keep saying that, oh, we're going to stop this, but nothing ever happens. So, you know, they need to step on the gas. Dr. Fauci should be in handcuffs and sitting in a jail cell right now because there's lots of proof out there. But, you know, he's part of the elite, so I guess we'll see what happens. And I just want to say, Kevin, you're the best. I mean, and Bill Roscoe, he's a great guy. I just want to wish him a great retirement. And he's done a lot for this valley, and he's really a really great example of a good Christian.
I agree. God bless you, Eric. Thank you.
God bless you, brother.
More coming up next. Fauci, 580 KIDO.
But you can't answer questions for the American people. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you're here taking the fifth. You could sit for InStyle magazine and get $1 million in cash awards. But now the cat's got your tongue. I bet he does. I tell you what, here's my conclusion from all of this. This was really all about you the whole time. Somewhere along the way, you lost your way. You may have been a good public servant at one time. I don't know. But I can tell you from reading your emails now, from looking at what you did, how you used your employees, somewhere along the line, it became all about you. You became a narcissist and a megalomaniac and a liar. And you've lied to the American people, and you've lied to this body. And you've disgraced your profession by doing it. You called yourself the most famous scientist in the world. You've done more to harm science than anybody in my lifetime. And I hope you'll go home and write that in your diary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There you have it. Josh Hawley letting Fauci know what he really thinks. Let's go to Concern and Emmett on 580 KIDO. Hello, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I love Josh Hawley, what he had to say. That's just awesome. Right to the point. The sad thing is the people need to pay attention to Democrats and how they defend this guy. If defending him is, I mean, if you figure that anybody with any brains would know guilty. The reason he took the fifth is just not that because he doesn't want to answer, because the fifth actually says, I don't want to answer anything that may incriminate me. And that's why he's taken the fifth, because he knows if he lies, he's either guilty or he's going to lie, or the two. So that's the reason he took the fifth, and it's probably a smart thing from his behalf. But the sadness is these Democrats that are saying, well, Trump this, Trump that. They just turn it around to Trump, and also they're defending this criminal. And that's the sad part about it all. They shouldn't say anything at all. But I hope people are paying attention to this guy. And he wasn't alone. You got to remember, his advice that he was given was also considered, and everybody else had the data too. So the Democratic Party, those that are involved in him, were making money off of drugs and everything else from the ivermectin, or not the ivermectin, but the MMR viruses or the injections, you know what I mean. But they were making money off that, just billions of dollars, and over again. And there's more behind it than just Dr. Fauci. He was just an arrogant idiot that was, also right to himself. Everything was done for himself. But just wanted to say that, that pay attention to the people that are this man, and because it's just sick and sad and wrong. And just like I said, he has ruined the government in the sense of trust by far. But this all ties back to the Biden and Obama administrations, that the damage they have done to this country. And I hope people wake up during this election and see what's going on, and see the lies and the cover-up for everything he did. Like the guy Cuna was saying, I forget his name, Eric Cuna, that, these people are just pathetic. I just hope people wake up. But thank you for letting me chime in. Sorry it was all broken up, but I just wanted to say that's the reason I took the fifth, because it is him if he says anything. He doesn't want to be incriminated. So it's not just a plea of like, I'm not saying nothing. It's almost an admit that if I say anything, I'm going to be guilty. So thanks for your show, Kevin, and thanks for all you do.
God bless. Thank you, Concern. Lee Joe joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Lee Joe.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Reverend Bill, like she said, his shoes are going to need bronze. I don't know if you're going to be able to fill them, but a fantastic man, a fantastic program to help people without government money. Our dear Fauci, it's wonderful to see him being beclowned in front of the entire country and the world, because that's what he is. He's a clown. I just want to remind folks that here in the state of Idaho, and despite Tea Party Bob and the rose-colored glasses that he will look at Donald Trump with invariably, we were talking about a local or a recent statement by the president that he was still proud of Operation Warp Speed, a program which funneled billions and billions and billions of dollars to Pfizer and Moderna, to the companies which have had the highest ever punitive damages awarded because of their lies and their poor business practices. And that's what they did with the shot. They lied and they just got the money. You remember a long stretch where most of the commercials on TV were Pfizer commercials trying to do their very best to A, spend that government money, but B, make sure that everybody thought they were great while they were working on killing 16-year-old athletes. And the way this happened locally, when Dave Jepson, it was under Dave Jepson's authority that the COVID emergency was declared, the director of the health department, and it was declared under a section of Idaho Code, which is the martial law section of Idaho Code. And when a bill was introduced in our legislature to give immunity to corporations and the government and the governor, it was only given to the corporations. People can still sue Brad Little and Dave Jepson over their COVID actions, which were all part of Donald Trump signing the appropriations bills that were the emergency COVID funding garbage. Okay? That there's still an opportunity for that. The statute of limitations is not over. There is no lawyer in Idaho that will do that. We've seen what happens to people who challenge Brad and the system in Idaho, and you don't win, you will go to jail, you will be destroyed, and that's how it is. So we have the same government here as they do in Washington. We have the same people who believe the Faucis of the world, and we just carry on like, hey, folks, nothing to see here. And you can't say it's not Donald Trump's fault. And he's still, I don't get it. He's got Robert F. Kennedy on his, in his cabinet, and he's still proud about Operation Warp Speed. I don't know what world Trump lives in, but some of it's pretty, I'm going to call it pro-corporate socialism. Government money to all the companies you can find that need money. The guy's not a fiscal conservative at all, but, that's just me, I guess. Just taking my rose-colored glasses off. Trump's...
Well, I'm sure Tea Party Bob will respond to your critique of him as he did yesterday.
Yes, which is fine and wonderful. I'm glad that we can debate on this side. And it's really, really good that we don't all have the same opinion. Trump's good. Like I said, Fauci's whole purpose was to destroy the economy so Trump wouldn't be in on this for a second term. That was it. And he acted in that way the whole time. That it's like Trump fired all these people when he was running The Apprentice, right? But who was that black woman that he rehired?
Omarosa.
And it's Omarosa. If you couldn't see who and what Omarosa was and not fire her from the very beginning of the first show, what is your capability as a manager of employees? Trump has some real flaws in his hiring abilities, Omarosa being one, and keeping Fauci anywhere near him and not understanding that the dude was an absolute fraud from the beginning. His management skills depend on how well he hires below him, and he's had several examples where he's not really good at that. the first term, all the rhinos he brought in. These are my criticisms. Is it better than, brain dead Biden? Yeah, it really is. But could we do better? Absolutely. And first-term Trump and second-term Trump are two different people. That's what I see. The second one learned how to work in the government and to get things through the establishment, which is a huge barrier. But is that principles? No. Is that the Constitution? No. That's whatever's best for to get some money out of the government to Corporation X or Y or
what have you. Lee Joe, thank you for the call. Dylan joins us now at 580 KIDO. Hello, Dylan.
Kevin, good morning. Gosh dang it. Of course, about Fauci, but, for the Boise Rescue Mission, I've always truly strived to either volunteer my time or donate money. And even through the transition, Bill's always going to be there. And God bless Jen. But I've never donated or volunteered time to an organization that had a greater impact. And I hope everybody knows and can see. And thank you for highlighting all of those moments and all the people that have had that impact right here locally. Your 20-mile circle. Focus on your 20-mile circle. Boise Rescue Mission is helping. But, man, I feel like Denny and Eric, too. You remember QAnon? 28 indictments. They're all coming. Hillary's going down. All this buildup. They're right. Remember Lois Lerner? I plead the fifth, just after she targeted the U.S. Treasury against conservatives. I plead the fifth. You can just see the evil in their face. No, Fauci's probably not going to go to jail. What you're going to find out is over the course of the next months, you're going to see the true controversy of COVID. And that is not a partisan issue. COVID was not racist or biased towards any political party. I think if they get this information out correctly, they're going to realize the corruption. Meanwhile, just before the election, you're going to truly find how many people are on the voter rolls that aren't citizens. Fauci going to jail should happen. Will it? Probably not. Over the course of the next few months, you're going to see a mastery game of what the true corruption was, and what the solve is to get your butt out there and freaking vote. Just like in Boise, you got to get out and vote, and that's truly going to solve the problems. Because, Lee Joe, I love you, buddy, but you answered your own question. Trump, first round, is going in. What does he know? He doesn't know who all the snakes are. He has to take whatever the advice from the top official is at the time. He's got minutes to decide. We can hindsight 2020 this all day long, and yeah, Trump better this round. And he's out doing things that I believe is going to economically set this country up, which is to bring back oil and bring back factories. It's not an easy process. And if you're short-sighted like some others out there that are worried about the midterms over the war, well, like Lucille said, it's just a bunch of rats. Get behind your people and stick behind them. Stick behind the Boise Rescue Mission and Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO, my brother.
Well, Dylan, thank you very much. I appreciate that as we're just sitting here walking around the broadcast center listening to you. And Dylan just hung up. All right. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. One more time for Dr. Fauci, everybody.
Magazine. Here's what you were doing with your time. You could sit for InStyle Magazine, but you can't answer questions for the American people. You could sit for InStyle Magazine, but you're here taking the fifth. You could sit for InStyle Magazine and get $1 million in cash awards, but now the cat's got your tongue. I bet he does. I tell you what, here's my conclusion from all of this. This was really all about you the whole time. Somewhere along the way, you lost your way. You may have been a good public servant at one time. I don't know. But what I can tell you from reading your emails now, from looking at what you did, how you used your employees, somewhere along the line, it became all about you. You became a narcissist and a megalomaniac and a liar. And you've lied to the American people, and you've lied to this body. and you've disgraced your profession by doing it. You called yourself the most famous scientist in the world. You've done more to harm science than anybody in my lifetime. And I hope you'll go home and write that in your diary.
More of your phone calls, more of your reaction. And how about that Fauci, boy? Fauci. I love how people are trying to carry his water, where they're saying Dr. Fauci has done so much. Yeah, Dr. Fauci has done a lot to us, unfortunately. And we do appreciate everybody calling in. And, of course, if you've missed it, we have to give you one of these. Tough guy Fauci.
Although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Tea Party Bob joins us now at 580 KIDO. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you this fine morning?
A little melancholy, if you will.
Yes, I feel the same way. I just wanted to say a few words to Reverend Bill, thanking him for all he's done to help those who are in need by giving them a hand up and not a handout. I've been involved in many charitable organizations in my life, but this one will always stand out as I understand from experience what homelessness is like as a child. The Treasure Valley is truly blessed to have had Bill and his team, and I know his legacy as a leader helping those who can't help themselves will continue as he begins a well-deserved retirement, knowing that he has left the Boise Rescue Mission in good hands with Jen at the helm, steering the mission into the future. So, Reverend Bill, may God bless you in your retirement, as we all are going to miss you dearly.
Yep. And
are you okay? You sucking in too much of that smoke.
I'm with you on that. Apparently, the air quality red alert until 1 p.m. today. But yes, it's brutal.
Wow. So let's get on here with our good friend Fauci. And while I'd like to rail on Fauci for the next 5 minutes, it is truly a waste of my time and anybody else's. What can anyone possibly say about a man who was responsible for the death of millions of innocent people? There is plenty of blame to go around and many people pointing fingers, but that will not give us much solace to those who have lost their precious loved ones because of this man's ego. I do hope they find a way for him to pay for his crimes during his lifetime, but I also know that we have to answer to a higher power after death, and I think that's when he's going to get his comeuppance. While Fauci was responsible for the unleashing of this COVID virus, it was the bad decisions made by many politicians in our states and cities that caused much of the horrible disruption in all of our lives. There's plenty of blame to go around when you think about the emergency orders and edicts issued that closed businesses and required stay-at-home orders, and officials pushing for vaccinations of a vaccine that was not even fully tested. So let us not forget, even in our conservative Idaho, Governor Little issued an emergency declaration for a statewide stay-at-home order for 21 days that closed our schools and restricted discretionary travel. And let us not forget those who died in hospitals without the comfort of their loved ones, again, because of the misinformation from the CDC and the NIH, along with hospital protocols. So let me remind everyone of something President Reagan said. The most terrifying words you will ever hear are, "We're from the government, and we're here to help you." I can only hope that in some time in the future, those who are injured by taking this EUA vaccine are compensated for their injuries, even though many will not ever be able to be compensated because they're no longer here. There were a lot of dumb decisions made during this pandemic, and my fear is that if there ever is a real danger from another life-threatening virus, that people may not listen to government officials as they did during the COVID scare, and that is where the real damage of a catastrophe will happen. And on the war in Iran, it's time for President Trump to stop playing around with and trying to reach an agreement with a regime that has no interest in finding a solution to this war and is just hell-bent on continuing their aggression in the Middle East and pursuing their acquisition of a nuclear weapon. And last but not least, thank you for your comments, Lee Joe. And while you complain, and it is easy to criticize Trump, I will say you need to walk a mile in his shoes. It's easy to be a critic, but if you had the same information, I wonder what decision you would have made. And that's about all I have for today, my friend.
Tea Party Bob, thank you very much for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Beam me up, Scotty, on 580 KIDO.
Hey, how's my favorite man of the day? Miller's my name. Making it happen's my game. I got a cobra-like thrust, and by golly, I'll kill if I must. Good morning, Kevy.
Good morning, Libby.
I'm 74 in one day today. Thank you for the birthday wish. With them, I can't talk about the party, but
happy birthday.
We'll forget about the party. I just hope I don't end up on some list somewhere. You know what I mean? Oh, Lordy, I wish I was just 40.
If you do nothing wrong, you have nothing to fear.
Oh, man, I'm always doing something wrong. You know?
That's what I hear.
But anyway, huh?
That's what I hear about you.
What I want to predict that the Iranian war will go through the next two presidents. Who's ever the next president and the president after that. That's how long it'll last. How long did Afghanistan last with Russia? Charlie's War.
Charlie Wilson's war. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't that last like 20 years with Russia? And then they turned tail and headed over the hill. And then in the U.S., how long was the war with the U.S. with Afghanistan?
Too long.
Yeah, and that was just a little Taliban. I mean, that was just a Taliban. I mean, they don't know nothing. They're just little cave-dwelling midgets, man. Up against real soldiers now. So I'd say 20 years. 20 years.
Are you still under the influence of your birthday celebration?
Yes, sir. Oh, I smoke more weed than there's available in the next 3 countries. Woo.
Well, you won't be smoking any weed here, bub.
I wouldn't want to. You got all the weed in the air right now. From what I hear, it's really, really bad.
Touche.
Yeah.
Go enjoy your beer and ride your ATV and watch sports. We'll run the country.
Sometimes you just don't know how to end things.
While people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Volker says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It was a $900,000 cash award. $900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service, you've got the Adelson Prize, you've got the Smithsonian Award, you've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award, you've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I'd qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you used 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Here they are right over my shoulder.
And there we have it. Good morning. Kevin Miller in the morning, 580 KIDO. It is truly memory lane when we have our great Republican conservatives holding the arrogant Dr. Fauci accountable. You've got the senator from Ohio. We can't even share his thoughts, where he basically, Senator Bernie Moreno drops the F-bomb in the Senate hearing, drops the S word, and it goes on and on and on. And Fauci going after Senator Paul for holding him accountable. Now, remember, Dr. Fauci was the voice of reason. Dr. Fauci begged Joe Biden to give him a pardon. Dr. Fauci was so fearful of what he had done, apparently, he needed a pardon.
Joe Biden.
From Joe Biden. And Biden, when he wasn't taking a look at, the golden hairs on his legs or having kids on his lap.
No. Don't let him go. Let him.
Decided that he would give Dr. Fauci a pardon. So Fauci, instead of really coming clean and basically saying, I messed up, because nothing really can happen to Dr. Fauci. What's he doing? He's being very ignorant and everything else. And like I said, you cannot, I can't air this stuff with Senator Moreno talking about 6 years ago his life changed when he decided, because of the pandemic, because of the treatment of the people, because of the treatment of businesses, that he would dedicate himself to public service. Like I said, you cannot air these clips because they've got the profanity. And it is remarkable when you think about this is the only thing that we can get. Yeah. Would it be nice if there were a trial? Yeah. Apparently Fauci has, according to the Washington Free Beacon, actually reported that Fauci has this incredible lawyer because, let's see, I can read this. Let me tell you what David Shurtler is, because he was ejected by the chairman. He's a high-profile criminal attorney. He has represented some really good people like Senator Bob Menendez. Maybe somebody who, is one of my Democratic colleagues might remember that guy took gold bars as bribes from the Egyptians. And here's the article right here in the Washington Free Beacon that talks about why you would hire a guy like him. The comment is, if you are in deep blank, this is the guy you call. And it's the S word. Dr. Fauci, are you in deep blank? And then Dr. Fauci will not talk about the Fifth Amendment. He'll just invoke it. This is serious stuff. By the way, they might be able to put him in prison for this one. Let's go to Senator Paul here on 580 KIDO.
to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter from the Department of Energy that confirms during Anthony Fauci's tenure that Bill Gates was given Q security clearance from 2014 to 2021. Without objection, that will be entered into the record. I'd also ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the contents of the folder of authorities provided to Dr. Fauci, including the pardon. Let's be clear today, what we've seen. I really did want to hear from Dr. Fauci. I wanted to hear perhaps an apology, perhaps some semblance of being sorry for what happened or that judgment errors were made. We didn't hear any of that. But he was subpoenaed here to testify, refused to answer any questions, even after being directed by the chair and being advised of the law requiring him to do so. He has cited a privilege that is unsupported because of his blanket pardon and because he waived the privilege by testifying at the start. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to comply with the law, limited to the period of your pardon. At any point between January 1st, 2014 and January 19th, 2025, did you destroy any federal record or tell anyone else to?
Under the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Given that you have a unlimited presidential pardon, what is your specific objection that you are making?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
My question was limited to the period of your pardon only. I find your objection unsupported and direct you to answer the question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Because you refuse to answer, citing a privilege that is unsupported because of your pardon, and after being denied to do so, this committee has scheduled a vote next week on a resolution certifying your contempt.
Remember, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, they all went to jail for contempt of Congress. Here's the funniest thing about Fauci. Fauci has been a celebrity. Fauci has made money. Fauci has done this. But when it came time for Fauci to pay the grasshopper to once again come out and be a man, he wilts. Not a good look for his character, friends. Clay and Buck will have much more on this, along with Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, Glenn Beck, George Norrie, and the others. Some great articles on our website. Watch out for the bacon. There's some bad bacon, big bad bacon recall. That information is on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Thanks to Treasure Valley Subaru for sponsoring this portion of the program. Good day, God bless, and